About now? All right, welcome. No viewers yet, but to anybody listening, this is the next installment of Academics Respond to Women Respond to the Men's Movement. And this week is a little special. We're just doing it through the voice chat in my Discord. So anybody in my Discord is welcome to come on down and hop in. But just so you know, if you hop into the voice chat, that means you are going to be live on my YouTube channel, which is a very big YouTube channel, soon to be bigger than Claire Kaw's YouTube channel, steadily growing by one or two subscribers every maybe week or so. Sorry, what was that?
Just to be clear, it has 400 subs.
400 subscribers, yes. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and post the Discord link in the chat.
Were you talking to someone in particular, or were you just talking to the audience? Sorry.
That was to the audience. That was just to introduce the stream. So, because people will listen to it later. Like dozens of people will go and find it later. There needs to be a proper introduction. All right.
Yeah.
So this week, we are reading the essay written by Phyllis Chesler called "The Men's Auxiliary: Protecting the Rule of the Fathers." And I've uploaded all of these pages into the Discord if you want to look at them, but they're also on the screen here. And I think they're all oriented properly and should be about the right size. Crossing my fingers that they're also in the right order. So we'll see what happens. Let's see. And then I'm just going to post the link in a couple of places so that people can hop in. And right now in the chat we have Ashley Messenger and Flagenfirst. Oh no! I disconnected for a moment there. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, I just heard you introducing us.
That was it. So yeah, sorry about that. It looks like my connection's all weird. I've never had this problem before on Discord. I wonder if it has to do with the fact that I'm streaming it now. In the worst case scenario, I might just throw together a Hangout. So I don't know. We'll see. But we're connected now. So if you guys want to quickly say hi, introduce yourself, you can shill
Hello.
if you want to shill.
Hello.
You should read my articles on altleft.com and jostle.net and stepkid.com, although I don't post to those latter two very often. It's mostly just altleft.com.
Oh, I don't really have anything out there to read right now. I'm working on some stuff for some people. Maybe next time.
He's a My Discord server exclusive. Okay. Oh, I know what happened. It's because I went into Discord in another window, so that's why it disconnected me. And I think while it would disconnect me, that means nobody can hear anything. But, okay, so I'm glad I figured that out. Alright, well, let's just go ahead and get into it, because usually we have plenty to comment on as we go through. So we'll begin the first page here. It's The Men's Auxiliary: Protecting the Rule of the Fathers by Phyllis Chesler. The male legal ownership of children is essential to patriarchy. Women are supposed to breed, bear, and or socialize father-owned, legitimate children within a father-absent and mother-blaming family. The fact that fathers are often absent or abusive when present, incestuous, infanticidal, infantile, doesn't change what patriarchy is about. Literally, the rule of the fathers. I have explored this paradox in each of my books, in Women and Madness in 1972 and in Women, Money, and Power in 1976. In 1978, I did so more mythopoetically in About Men. Long before Robert Bly, I saw men as father-wounded sons who, therefore, grow up to scapegoat women for their father's many failings. In About Men, I said, How sad that men would base an entire civilization on the principle of paternity, upon male legal ownership of and presumed responsibility for children, and then never really get to know their sons or their daughters very well. Never really participate, for whatever reason, in parenting, in daily, intimate fathering. True rebellion against a father frightens sons terribly. Sons have just barely begun to overthrow their original parents, their mothers. So I am concerned with displacements of male-male rage and grief onto safe targets, onto weaker men, onto children, onto women. So that's her first page there. And we have
it's one of those
spinach souffle in the chat too, so welcome as well.
Hi.
Hey.
All right, nice to see you here. So yeah, we just got through the first page of this one, and then Ashley, you had some thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's hard to know what to do except just dryly state facts, because this is pretty, well, as you said, nothing particularly imaginative. It's just the same shit that we're used to hearing from them all the time. The thing about infanticide, we know that women do most of that, so there's that. And she was talking about the time that parents spend with children. I think in terms of hours, parents actually spend more time with their children on the whole now than they did, say, in the 50s. I don't particularly remember why. I guess it's maybe just nicer parental leave and other things. I don't know. But, yeah, so...
Are you sure about that? Because I would expect that, well, it might depend a lot on the kind of, like, family, right? Like if you're, like a family of farmers, I imagine that you spend a lot of time with your kids because everybody's, like, working at home. But then I guess more, like, traditional industrial style, like 1950s kind of households. I guess it'd be kind of similar, but...
Earlier than that, I guess child labor could have a lot of interesting effects on it. But it's kind of debatable how much time children need to spend with their parents on a constant basis. I mean, there are places on this planet where it's normal for children as young as like 6 and 7 to have a degree of independence that most Westerners would find fairly terrifying. Like Japan, there are a lot of young kids who are allowed to commute on their own and just kind of do their own thing. Partly because it's a very safe society, but so yeah.
Yeah, roaming packs of child gangs.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I really don't think that's that scary, because yeah, like public transit is so safe. You know?
I don't think it's scary at all. I think we should give children more autonomy, but ideally anyway. But
I just find it interesting that this was written, you say, in 1992, and this description really only reflects upper class or working men in a very specific period of time, and it's not really it's not a reality that existed for most people in the, like, up until the 19th century and 20th century, and by the time she wrote this, there's already been this culture of fathers spending their free time with their families, or at least in Western countries, where they would chime in and do stuff with their kids on the weekends and in the evenings, and it's like this horror scenario of a man just seeing his family as a property, you know?
Yeah, and that's kind of something that's really funny about this book, is there's a lot of criticisms that have gotten more attention recently of, like, white feminism, right? Where people are doing this very intersectional takedown of classical, very mainstream feminism. And, a lot of that was prevalent even at this time, and basically it really didn't age well, and they're not completely wrong. Like, the main body of feminist literature are very elite, upper class white women, and their perspectives really I think aren't reflective of society in general, though they love to claim otherwise. And they love to criticize Robert Bly and his men's movement for all of those men being, supposedly very, very upper class, But the other thing, too, that I feel like has to be mentioned is when it comes to male absence, there's just this presumption that it's always the man's fault, even though, insofar as that may legitimately be the case in some circumstances, it is pretty much always some fault of the mother. Like, logically speaking, the mother can't be forced into motherhood, right? And she does have the power, especially post, no-fault divorce, the power to completely alienate the father from the children. And I don't think that any of these women really address that.
Yeah, and considering that this is basically from my childhood, my generation, and people that I know that had fathers that really spent all of their time at work and never were home, it was always the mothers that pushed the man to make that money to satisfy their needs. Like, we gotta move into a bigger house, you gotta work more. And then some of them divorced them, saying, "You never have time for me or my kids." Like, yeah, you kind of forced me to do that, so it's hard to put the blame on the man in those situations.
No, he's only doing it because he wants to maintain his domination over the family and own them all. That's why he's working, okay? That's the real incentive here.
No, no man ever wanted to supply his family with goods and money. No, that's insane.
No, yeah, he married his wife and had a bunch of kids with her because he hates all of them.
With what you said about forcing women into pregnancy not being possible, it probably wasn't even possible, practically speaking, in pre-modern times, because even if they carried the child to term, if they didn't have the resources to take care of it, they could just kill it. It's actually something that happened a lot in pre-modern times. You've heard about, this is a different situation, of course, but that stuff the Spartans did, where they would throw unfit babies into a ravine, basically, like practicing basically a primitive form of eugenics. But there are lots of things like that in history. Women would quite a lot of the time just kill children if they didn't have the means to take care of it, or if they didn't want it, or whatever. They would engage in
Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah, post-birth abortion. And just one point about white feminism. I think it's still true even today that it's overwhelmingly a white thing, but it has to be said that I wouldn't say that the non-white advocates of it, like bell hooks and so on, I wouldn't say they add anything to it that's particularly refreshing or interesting. It's just feminist theory plus, like, signaling about race and attendant shit. It's not very interesting.
Well, it's almost like they're not a counter to white feminism. They're like hyper-white feminism.
Yeah, if white feminism wasn't identity politics about being a woman, this is just adding another layer to it.
Yeah, like they took it in the wrong direction. They're like, hey, no, we want to be the white people. We want to be the white feminists. All right. And Spinach Souffle, do you mind if I call you by your name? Because we are live on the internet, so I can call you by your online name or your name.
Who are you addressing?
You.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, yeah, because I know him in real life.
Anyway.
He's actually he's a friend that I made through when I had the first red pill screening at Twin Cities Men's Center. So.
Yeah, I live in this dude's apartment and drove his car until I got it totaled.
Did you total my car? I mean, it's your car now.
Well, there was so much fucking work that needed to be done on that thing, man. Fuck.
Was there? I mean, it wasn't in the greatest. It's a very old car, but it moves, right? It runs. Oh no.
I mean, it hit this certain point where when you would get up to about 55, 60 miles an hour, like the whole fucking car would start vibrating. in
Oh
this
yeah, it
really
used to do that
scary
sometimes.
kind of way.
But whenever I'd get it fixed, it would
And
work again.
and you couldn't drive it for shit in the snow because one of the front axles was like fucked. So you just find yourself veering this way and that way without. Yeah, nah. And
Yeah,
I don't
the
have
car
my
I had
license
before
anymore.
that
Anyway,
had
so
that
fuck
issue
it.
too. It's actually really scary when your steering like moves around.
Anyway,
Sorry about that, but yeah,
well,
when I
what were
moved
we
to
on
Hong
about?
Kong, I was like, well, I have this car, and then eventually my sister needed a roommate, and you were looking for a place to move, so you kind of just ended up taking
Yep.
over my car and my apartment and my cat.
Mm-hmm. And and your workplace for a bit of time too.
Yeah, that was before, but yeah.
Well, yeah.
All right, hey, now
So
we have
we're not
honks in the
dealing
chat
with
too. So now it's a party. All right.
as long as you
Yeah.
don't
Oh, and
pull
hey,
a talented Mr.
I
Ripley
apologize
on
for the
him.
throat clearing and coughing and shit. I just got done eating, so that's the reason for that. It should be done with that shit.
Yeah, it's not too bad. If you think it's gonna be bad, you could try to. I don't know how convenient your mic is for quickly muting and unmuting. You could try that, but otherwise it's not.
Well, I'm not
that
on a
big
mic.
of
I'm
a
just on my
thing.
phone.
If you're on Discord, you can use the push to talk function.
Or just the mute function at the should be next to your name. I don't know how it looks on the phone.
Yeah, there's a button to mute and unmute.
Yeah.
But I've just been like extending my arm all the way if I have to cough, and turning my head.
You can just go to settings, voice and video, and then push to talk, and then it'll set it push to talk.
I'm really stupid, and when I tried to do it one
we
time,
should
I
be
set
fine.
spacebar as the button for push to talk. So then every time I was typing, it was like muting, unmuting.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, whoops, I have to choose like a key I don't use, like the fin key.
So people would selectively hear your type rage.
That's right. All right, let's see what Miss Phyllis Chesler has to say. She's off to a great start, I think. I viewed male
Indeed.
uterus envy as probably the male psychological force behind the patriarchal creation myths, God as a father creator of humanity, and behind the consequent secular myths that held men as medical expert to be superior to women as mother. My RX for men was not, prescription. My prescription for men was not male separatist drum beating sessions, but feminist consciousness and activism. Oh, imagine that. It's a feminist who thinks that consciousness raising and activism, in the name of feminism, that's the solution. She remarked earlier that she noticed this problem of father absence among men much earlier than Robert Bly. And if only we had taken her seriously and done her solution, we'd have solved this problem by now.
But of course.
I like this term, male uterus envy.
Male uterus envy.
Male uterus, that's it. Well, honestly, I'm not even sure I can contradict that, because we do want the artificial womb. That it might be a gay man thing.
I wonder what she would say about Genghis Khan. Like,
To be fair, I think most boys are happy they don't get pregnant. Me as a boy, I always made fun of the girls saying that you have to poop out babies. So yeah.
It's
Well,
just
in
chuckle at the inept language because like the penis envy is not female penis envy, it's just penis envy, but she had to make it male uterus envy.
in Britain, they don't even have to worry about the pain of childbirth honks because apparently they just give them heroin.
Oh,
Heroin.
there you go.
Giving birth.
wait, heroin, not Well, what's the medical
Sorry.
one?
This is a little bit.
Morphine?
This is
Morphine?
this is a slight detour, but diamorphine, aka heroin, is sometimes still used medicinally in the UK for as a painkiller. Basically, it is sometimes administered by doctors. I think I was given it when I had my appendix out, for instance. Yeah.
Okay.
So sometimes they use that, and sometimes they use normal morphine. So it's possible that the giving women who are going to give birth heroin. Like, it probably does happen sometimes.
That's
Interesting.
quite fitting because it's the female-named opiate, the heroin.
Aha! So it's appropriate. It's a round
Yeah,
peg
that's-
for a round hole.
Hee ha ha.
It is a pun. I do puns. I'm sorry.
Alright, now we're going to get into her criticism of the father's rights movement. So I was not surprised when I first encountered father's rights activists in the late 1970s, claiming male maternal superiority and blaming women for father's failures. Eventually, I wrote about them in Mothers on Trial, The Battle for Children in Custody, in 1986. Oh my god, is this the woman... Oh no, I'm thinking of a different one. Diana Davison has a series, I don't think it's Mothers on Trial. I think it's, oh, what is it? What is it? This actually might be it. I wonder if this is the same woman. But that book, Mothers on Trial, if it's the same one, it's basically a collection of cases, I think in Canada, where, like, women just did these awful things, basically murdering people, and how she thought of all these really, really clever ways to get them off. And, like, all of the cases are awful. Like, not a single one of them... Like, they're supposed to be the cream of the crop, right? But, like, all the cases are just, like, this woman is clearly guilty. Why are you even defending her? And it's all about just the sophistry of trying to make it, like, as strong as possible.
Hello.
Wasn't there recently a woman who fucking, or is that the one you're talking about? The one that recently fucking killed this guy or something? Like, weebs were all about it for like the whole month or something, saying, "Oh yeah, I hope she stabs me."
Hey, Prince is here.
That medicine student that stabbed her boyfriend, or which one do you mean?
I think it was that one, yeah.
Like they let her go scot-free because they said, "Oh, she's a medical student. She intentionally cut him in a way that didn't kill her."
And this was you gotta remember, this was written like decades ago, right? So this is all super old, ancient stuff. But the women on trial cases, the ones that stick out to me, is there was one where they always claim it's domestic violence. It's always domestic violence, right? One of them was a case of cohabitation. And basically, I can't remember the circumstances well enough, but, like, she lived with a guy for, like, a couple of weeks, basically, and, like, either assaulted him or murdered him or something, and basically got off by claiming it was domestic violence, even though she, like, barely lived there, and they were just, like, boyfriend, girlfriend or something stupid. And then the other one was a mother who, like... She claimed that she was a battered wife, and she, like, waited in the dark with a shotgun, and then when he came home, she shot him, and, like, tried to claim this was, like, self-defense. And it's like, no, like, you don't wait for someone in the dark and, like, plan a murder, like, and then get to say, oh, it was self-defense.
Okay, so all the identifiers of murder, like, what's the word for preconceived murder? Premeditated, yeah.
Was there any signs of like bruising or like punching like on her? There's women that do it to themselves to make it more realistic convincing, but.
Well, I think there was the argument. I think it was supposed to be like over a very, very, very long period of time, right? So that was how she was making her case. But I don't know if this was the same woman or not. I don't know if this is the same kid, but the title was just very familiar. Sorry, so I got us off on a tangent. But if you haven't watched that, on Diana Davison's channel, look up, like, either Women on Trial or... No. You know what? The one that she responded to was called Defending Battered Women on Trial. So Mothers on Trial is different. But, there was another book I read, though, with a similar title, written by a woman named, like, Dorothy. My feminist friend let me borrow it, and I was just reading it and making fun of it. And she's like, give me my book back. All you're doing is just mocking a battered woman. And I'm like, she's a liar. So, me and her have fun.
I don't understand how you can be friends with a feminist. I tried my hardest. And she ended up hating me.
Yeah, we're kind of an awkward duo, so... it's fun. It's whatever.
Yeah, I wanted to be her evil twin, but she didn't like it.
We're both kind of
It can
offish
work.
in our own ways, so it kind of works.
Like, I have one feminist friend, and it's kind of irritating to have conversations because she actually listens and takes facts into consideration. But then you have the same conversation 6 months later, and it's like the first one never happened.
Yeah.
just Men in Blacks it away. Just
Yeah, no, that's a really common thing. I think that it's because they are lying when they say that they care. It's like, oh yeah, oh, that makes sense. Oh, I'm really gonna have to think hard about how to forget about this.
No, in that case, I spent like 1 hour and a half explaining the gender pay gap to her, and she really seemed like she was honest about understanding the factors. But 6 months later, it was just back to square one. I was like,
I have. Sorry, I should have let you finish entirely. I have a video called "When Good Women Go Feminist," and it's about how because this was actually based on my mother being irritating. Like, it was when she read the Bell Hooks book and decided that she wanted to agree with it, even though she had already been a big fan of Dr. Jordan Peterson for a long time. And I think it's just because women have so much to gain from feminism. And so it's like, okay, on the one hand, I could be rational and tell the truth and be a good person and listen to my son but then on the other hand, ooh, shiny. You know what I mean?
Gotta put my hand in the cookie jar.
oof.
one more
Makes
cookie.
sense.
Just one
So
more.
some-
Very few men are vocal advocates of female accountability, but very few women are either, and they have no real incentive to be because of all the goodies they get from feminism.
Yeah, and they're already there. Like, all they have to do is just be what's the word? Passive. Like, they don't have to actually do anything. They can just say, it's the choice between doing what is ethical and difficult and doing what is completely immoral, what will benefit them, and what is the most easy. Like.
Yeah,
Alright.
I think it's also a lot about the environment. Like, even if you convince them of something based on the truth, they're not going to bring it up with their feminist friends. So they're going to keep hearing the same mantra over and over, and I guess they kind of forget what they agreed to in a previous conversation with a non-feminist person, I suppose.
I think that's why it's extremely important to be able to talk about these issues in a public setting, so people can actually think right, that there's other sides to the story or other ideas other than just feminist.
So, speaking of women not taking responsibility and all the double standards that we're pretty familiar with, this next half of this paragraph I just pre-read is it's very funny. She says, the collective message presented by fathers' rights groups is a chilling one, that children belong to men. Sperm donors, surrogate contract fathers, live-in boyfriends, legal husbands, when men want them, but not when men don't. Exactly who and what is the organized men's rights / fathers' rights movement? I just the fact that, like, I don't know if that reminds you of anything. Abortion, right? When they literally women get to decide if this thing has personhood, right? Completely, just legally, she gets to decide if it's a person or not. And then she's gonna complain about, oh well, men only have the right to their children when they claim they do, even though women also have this right. The classic comparing of all the reproductive options of men versus women. Like, it's just amazing to me. There's no shortage of them making these gendered claims without at any point saying, wait a minute, does this apply to women? Like, they always forget that these claims are comparative, and they never make the comparison. Anyway, now she's
Yeah,
going
I
to
don't-
explain to us what is the organized men's rights movement. So, do you have a thought to
Yeah,
add?
does anybody have any mental image of a movement that would qualify as that, especially in 1992?
Well, in 1992, it would be basically Robert Bly's movement. So it would be the Mythopoetic men's movement, which was a little bit traditional conservative. Generally, it kind of, as far as I've seen of it, it has the classic problem of a lot of more traditional conservative approaches to men's rights, which is that they're not necessarily doing it because they care about men as ends in themselves. They care about male utility to society. And you'll see this like in Christina Hoff Sommers. Like every single video, she'll end it with, "We have to do this because society needs it," right? It's never like men are
Defend
suffering,
men's
we need to end
interests
suffering.
because they are there to serve society or the women's or the children, and not they don't have a value in of themselves, just to society and to the women.
I actually
Yeah,
think it would be it would at least be more okay if we could also talk about women in that very kind of utilitarian way. But of course, we aren't supposed to do that.
I feel like the most Christina Hoff Sommers ever really says is basically, I don't think feminists need to be so aggressive and keep going. I think they could maybe just sort of settle here.
Yeah, I think we should cash in our chips. Cash in our chips now.
Wait, what?
We should just cash in now. Quit going all or nothing.
Yeah.
Quit going all or nothing. But no, actually, I also think that is a good point.
She's basically saying let's just quit while we're ahead.
Yeah, but the thing is, with traditionalism, in theory, there is some justification to it if we can have a fair treatment of it. But right now we have kind of the worst of both of it, right? We have male traditionalism and then female egalitarianism, female quote unquote egalitarianism. So it's kind of like, gotta go one way or the other, and yeah, cashing the chips in now, keeping things as they are, is among the worst of options. All right, so she's going to explain this. She asks. Oh, sorry. What?
Sorry. I was just going to say, I'm not sure if it's possible to do fair traditionalism, quote unquote, in the present age, because let's be honest, being a housewife, for instance, at the present juncture, really isn't very difficult. Like, it's really not.
And I was also going to comment, like, I watch a lot of Turtling and Monkey, and he always talks about patriarchy and stuff. Even in a patriarchy, life for men's not easy. Like, look at Islamic countries. Like, look at how bad men have it if they say break a law or something. Like, gay men are thrown off the roofs, people get their fucking heads, and lesbians are treated with a slap on the wrist. Not to say that it shouldn't be illegal. You get my point. It's not going to fix male expendability. It's not going to treat men any better. It's just that women can't have fucking me to you every single.
No, yeah, and I think TFM would acknowledge that it's definitely no walk in the park for men. He'd actually argue that ultimately what he's advocating for is best for women. He makes that the argument that it's the most humane kind of thing, but also that we don't necessarily have to use Islam to restore the patriarchy. But it does seem to be that's, I guess, the most effective model out there. That's one thing that I guess I can't disagree with Claire on. Unfortunately.
The other thing about traditionalism, I never really thought about this way. The Hillary Clinton being a mother is the hardest job and whatever. If you have a paycheck as a man that is able to support your family, which many men don't have anymore these days because of the modernization of the workplace and the introduction of the woman. If you have that, being a housewife these days is a lot less work than it was before all of these machines were invented that do the stuff for you. It used to be a very hard job before dishwashers, vacuum cleaners, everything that makes a job that used to be very hard, kind of convenient,
There was I think there was a time when it was essentially a full-time job, as in terms of the number of hours you'd have to put in and stuff, depending on the size of the house and the size of the family, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah,
It's
no,
kind of
absolutely,
gone.
and that's the issue is when a lot of these traditionalist women, they don't want to really return to traditionalism. It's just like women asking to be in the workforce. You know, the moment we have industrialization, right, where a lot of the hard labor is kind of automated out. You know, now it's like, oh, now I want to be a housewife in my, you know, post Xanax, post vacuum cleaner and dishwasher world, where now I have a Roomba, right? I just got to babysit
Yeah.
the Roomba.
She's like, wait, that's a really good deal.
Yeah, it's a sweet deal, and I've heard from a lot of men too who have done the you know, the stay-at-home dad thing, and they're like, yeah, it's awesome. It's like the funnest job ever. I'm kind of sitting like, yeah, how could it not be? You know, just hang out, do some crafts,
Watch over-
whatever. All right, so
I mean,
so we
it's
have
tiring.
yeah, now it's time for
But-
the answer to her question. She says, exactly who and what is the organized men's rights / fathers' rights movement? It is patriarchy itself. The church, the state, and private enterprise, as it herds women into sex-typed, lesser lives. It is our own families, sacrificing its female members and defending its male members, even when they're known to have seriously wronged women and children. It is the profound and unending hostility women encounter, on street corners, on dates, at work. It is my own 22-year battle to gain full professorship at my university. The fathers' rights movement is the men's auxiliary to this larger men's movement.
I like how they use the word sacrifice.
I just love how
Yeah,
blunt
what
she
did you
is.
sacrifice?
There's
What was that
no
about?
doubt.
Sacrificing female family members and defending males. Pretty
Yes,
yeah.
it's sacrificing its female members and defending its male members. That you know what that makes me think of?
What are you
War. That's literally war. That's like how we draft all the women to protect the men.
Sorry,
we should totally do that.
technical thing. A technical. Prince of Queens, could you mute yourself when you're talking because I hear echoes from the other guys?
Oh, wow, that's weird. Okay, I'm just gonna turn down my mic a lot. Then
Yeah, sorry, it's just
You
a
can
little
also,
bit.
because your volume
Can you
is a little low, so you can also adjust the
Oh,
sensitivity
I wonder
in
why-
Discord settings. Because I think this is
That's
probably the first time
bizarre.
we've done the voice chat on a Discord, right?
Wait, what?
On Discord and the settings, you can adjust the sensitivity too. That might be a better option than just going lower
So
volume.
wait.
Or you can put it on push.
Wait, do I go to user settings? Is that what I would?
Yeah,
use
do
the
you
settings.
see,
Audio, video.
Yeah, there should be like next to the mute and the other thing. There's a little settings button, and you can also do push to talk.
Voice. Okay, so I'm gonna do.
Yeah, he's
Okay,
testing.
how about that?
Yeah, that should be
How
better
about that?
now.
Does that work now?
Somebody else saying something?
La 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 la. La.
Perfect. Sorry, just
Alright,
wanted to
we'll
make it a
continue.
bit more.
Well,
less
let's
muddled
get
here.
through this page here. So she concludes this page with, the fathers' rights movement in America grew out of the male feminist movement and the anti-feminist New Right. What the men's rights movement has done during the past 20 years is to repackage long-standing ideas about fathers' rights, sometimes in a progressive voice, other times in a reactionary one. Left-wing or feminist fathers' rights activists claim that fathers have an equal right to children because men can mother also. They say that mother is a verb, not a noun, and a man can be a better mother than a woman can. Right-wing or patriarchal fathers' rights activists claim that children need a father-dominated family. They also claim that God is the father of all children and that he appointed earthly fathers as his children's custodians.
Is that even true?
This is so autistic. I mean, that doesn't even matter. Like, most men, I would imagine, aren't interested in this whole weird verbiage of, like, mothering and fathering. They just want to have access to quote-unquote, to their children like a normal person, as
Like,
opposed
how
to,
do
like, a
you
subhuman.
mother your children as a father? Like you just
Yeah.
father, like you just parent. I would just say parent, you know.
Yeah, I think what it is she's probably perceiving a lot of that language because I imagine that these men are kind of trying to speak in her language, and it's a very feminist thing, right, to kind of play these word games. And I kind of like that, the phrase that, a mother's a verb, not a noun. But, the point about the same can be said for parent and for fathering, makes makes a lot of sense too. But so she has this divide here, right, where she has the left wing and right wing fathers' rights groups. And she basically says that the left wing ones are the feminist ones, the right wing ones are patriarchal. Earlier she mentioned anti-feminist new right. So this is right, obviously, before we had like post A Voice for Men feminism, right? So when they say anti-feminist, they just mean anything that opposes feminism. And earlier she defined patriarchy as including the church, the state, and private enterprise. So once you add all of that, it's kind of like, how could you not be for patriarchy, right? Like if I go to the store and I buy something, that's part of, the white supremacist capitalist patriarchy. Sorry. Also,
It's like their
cis
argument
heteronormative.
when they react to people saying when's Men's Day as opposed to Women's Day, and they say every other day in the year. Patriarchy is like, we're not a men's club. I don't go mustache twirling to a bar and hang out with men thinking about how to oppress women. Nobody does that, I think.
No, exactly. It's very so. There's definitely people that have the sorts of views that she's describing, and some of this category I think kind of holds over. Obviously, the way that I use right and left wing is strictly on the economic axis. So, by this standard, her left wing feminist fathers' rights activists, their view is like actually somewhat similar to mine. And then her
It's also
right wing
important
ones
to
who are
put
very
in the
theocratic, I would
historical-
consider very left wing.
It's also important to put it in this historical context. Like left wing and right wing wasn't the same in 1992 as it is today. The
Right.
Overton
My
Linden
standard
and
transcends
the goalpost
history.
shifted.
It's like my standard is like I can go through all of history and say, okay, based on the one that I use, here's where I would put them. But yeah, if we're using the kind of conventional terms of the time, then they switch around, which is why I think we should stop using those, because now how do we know what she's even saying? She says both
Yeah, I think
kinds of
cone
fathers.
theory is pretty apt.
Sorry, what?
You introduced me to cone theory, Spacepan. I think that's pretty apt.
Yeah, I like cone theory. I like it a lot. I think it explains everything. And like right now TFM has this big hard-on for the political trichotomy. I say no, you take your trichotomy, roll it into a cone, and then that's it. Like that explains everything. And I love the fact that you can like just spatially, literally roll the triangle into a cone, and it makes perfect sense.
Wait, what is the trichotomy?
The political trichotomy, instead of having a spectrum, it has 3 points. One of them is kind of the progressive liberal point, one is the more traditional conservative point, and then the third one's like the libertarian point. And the idea is that all 3 of them kind of play in opposition to each other, and once any one of the 3 gains too much power, the other 2 will collude together to bring things back closer to the center. Which is true. There's a lot of truth to the political trichotomy. It is very useful in a lot of senses. But basically, I repackage it as the cone because I want my point of the trichotomy to be seen as the superior one. It's basically what's going on. I'll openly admit that. Okay, she says, both kinds of fathers' rights activists share certain perspectives and strategies. They claim that as men, they are savagely discriminated against by lawyers, judges, and ex-wives in custody matters. Okay, that's a fact. That as men, they are economically enslaved and controlled by greedy and parasitic ex-wives who prevent them from seeing their children. It's also kind of a fact. And they argue that men's parenting, whether on a mothering or on a patriarchal fathering model, is sufficient and often superior to women's parenting. Now that last one, I'm not sure how common that is. I know that a lot of people, like, in my circle, kind of openly suggest this. I don't know. I'm not very complimentarian, but I do think that this criticism is probably not very true of her, so-called right-wing, more kind of theocratic people.
So, what do people in your circles suggest?
Basically, that men are better at parenting than women. In general, hashtag not all, right? There's always a
Isn't that
presumed
just
hashtag
derived
not all.
from the studies that say that whole like a whole family, like a mother and a father, produces better economic outcome when it comes to children as opposed to single mother households?
They also measure like when it comes to like single fathers. Like obviously, like a two-parent household is the best, but single father households are better statistically than ones. The child does better. That's what.
Yeah, and then when you have the
Interesting.
two-parent households, you can compare hetero versus homosexual, and it seems like the heterosexual ones do better, but it also seems like there's not a very wide difference. But I think there's also a lot of problems with that research. So
I suppose
ultimately, I
if you
think it comes
have
down to case by case. But
children
what's
of both sexes, uh, to like a heterosexual parent, like that, both have the role model or whatever, like it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, well, and the thing is that I just think there's kind of an abundance of female role models in society. The way that women tend to go towards things like teaching, nursing, stuff like that. Like you do see female authority like all over the place. I think teachers is kind of the big one, and I think because of
Yes.
that, it kind of gives single fathers an advantage.
Yeah, because they just fill in the role that's missing in most cases.
Right. Whereas if you're a single mother, now you're like kind of seeking out a male in that role. But there's so many reasons that males aren't going to be in those positions, and of course, like Me Too didn't help, um, and just the way that the economy is, and then the way that even just the
Yeah, we
predispositions of
we
what
do
men versus women are interested
discourage
in.
them. Like a friend of mine wanted to go and become like a kindergarten teacher, and he got so frustrated with all these questions if he was a pedophile. I was like, why don't they ask these questions to women?
Wait, they really seriously sat there asking him that.
Yeah, like did they
Like
literally
he's
ask
gonna
him,
say yes.
did they literally ask him, "Are you a pedophile?"
Well, I don't think they use that language, but he kind of got that feeling through several lines of questioning,
Yeah.
like about
Wait,
his
so
motivation.
was it like have you ever felt sexually aroused at the thought of seeing children playing in the park?
I would have to call him on that, but I think he actually implied that they kind of asked something along those lines to make sure that they wouldn't hire a pedophile, and that's fucking disgusting.
Wow. Yeah.
Name which of the following are appropriate places to touch the child on top of the head. Yes, maybe. Really?
Maybe. Yeah, I had a weird experiences because I used to babysit, and they would question me like a lot about like saying like trying to see if I was like a pedophile. I'm just like, what are you talking about? I'm like fucking 60.
Yeah, okay, I'm not saying it's like that was just anecdotal evidence from one guy that I know who really felt that this was the case, if you know what I mean. But if it happens to one guy, it might happen to more.
Well, and then if you
I
also
don't know if there are
consider,
studies.
like, if he's trying to be head of household and have a career that's going to be a dependable source of income, the fact that there's just this looming threat that he could just be accused of something like that and have his entire career ruined and then never be able to get a job again, there's just it just makes it so that virtually anything else is a more attractive alternate option. And I think that's why partly you see so many more men in like the higher education. But I think that is only one factor. But yeah, so it's a complicated thing, but the real
Yeah, but
solution
there
is to
seems
just
to
get
be
rid of
like,
education and just have
this
everyone
trend
homeschool.
there's a lot of the big factor of women more willing to go into the profession, of course, but if there's even a little factor like that involved, that's kind of fucked up in a so-called society that strives for equality, if you ask me.
Well, and now things like surveillance and like different kind of security features, I think I think in theory we should have some pretty good modern solutions to these problems, but Theory versus practice, I guess.
I mean, the parents who put in those nanny camps, most of the perpetrators of child violence to children, like nanny camps, were women. Like,
Yeah,
of
they had a
course it's
similar
biased.
experiment with spanking, where they kind of like recorded a bunch of couples over time. So I guess they knew they were being recorded, but it turned out that they spank a lot more frequently and often without any real warning. And these were people who like knew that they were being like tested for this.
If they even do it in that circumstance, that's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, well, and of course these are people who are like.
Well, I think it would
have.
have. I would assume it would have to do. It's just the emotional and vindictive, like less pragmatic, less logical nature of women in general. I mean, that's. I'm in safe company to say that, aren't?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, we
The
read the
safest.
hashtag not all. Okay, this is a hashtag not all presumed area. So
Yeah, like but that's. I think I remember Erin Pizzey had that problem where she was. Erin Pizzey, right? Like everybody in this.
Yeah,
circle
absolutely.
knows.
Yep.
Where she figured out that actually it's the violence towards the children is the majority from the mother these days, like in her time. And she was shunned for even suggesting that maybe there's better men and children that need to be protected from their mothers.
Yeah, how dare you try to solve this problem? Can't you see we're trying to hijack your organization and use it to get money?
No, right?
Okay, she said, oh my god, this next part is actually really good. This is actually, it's getting better. So she says, and they argue that men's parenting, whether or not a mothering or patriarchal father figure, is sufficient and often superior to women's parenting. There is no comparable movement for mothers' rights. That is, for custody, child support, alimony, marital property, increased levels of welfare, free legal counsel upon divorce, and so forth. But there should be, because, despite men's movement cries of unfair, it is in fact mothers' and children's interests that are routinely sacrificed on men's behalf. This is like antique clown world shit right here. So she just listed a bunch of shit that exists because of this movement that she claims doesn't exist.
Yeah, what do you reckon her IQ is? It's got to be like 80.
Hey, she is a professor. She had to work at it for a very long time because of all the sexism, but still, that means she's got to be high IQ. And she definitely didn't do it as a form of status seeking or as a way to, out of insecurity for not being as intelligent as she thinks she is. That's definitely not what happened. That's definitely not what she told us on the page before this.
No.
Now she's about to list a bunch of awful things. In reality, the fathers' rights movement, 1. Campaigns against abortion rights and sometimes against female birth control. 2. Counsels men to kidnap children, either legally or illegally, and to default on alimony, health, and child support payments. 3. Lobbies against state-initiated actions against deadbeat dads, and for programs that replace women's rights to a lawyer and a court hearing with mandatory mediation favoring joint legal custody. 4. Lobbies the media and state legislatures to dismiss allegations that fathers commit incest as lies fabricated by vindictive wives and manipulated children, manipulates anecdotes and social science data, e.g. about battered husbands, and demands and commands equal time in public and media discussions, and 5. Fails to lobby for health, education, and welfare, a family allowance appropriate to human needs and dignity. So,
Wow. Well, I don't even know how to comment on that. That's just like a big ball of...
do you want to know something? Feminism, I think... Let's see. So the first one was abortion. Abortion is not a women's issue. Abortion is a question of personhood and whether or not fetuses are human life worthy of moral concern. That's the issue. That's the entire debate. You can have a good faith position, I think, on either side of that, but the moment you make it about women's rights or women's bodily autonomy, you're a liar. You're absolutely a liar. You might as well argue that women should be allowed to murder babies or even just to murder and rob people, right? Because if you prevent a woman from murdering and robbing someone, are you not infringing upon her bodily autonomy? Is it not my body, my choice, right? Like, same argument. Same argument.
Yeah, you also live in like a post birth control and condom world, so if you get pregnant, like it's probably your fault. Like
The amount of failure of birth control is really, really low these days, if you actually do it right.
And it may
you
be
can
the
also
case,
just not be as
maybe back in the early 90s, there may have been more of a prevalence of people trying to outright ban birth control. I'm not sure how popular that ever was, but nowadays, certainly, the only argument you might see are people saying, hey, we just don't want to pay for it. And it's the same thing with abortion. That's basically all we have left of like a pro-life movement is people saying, could you just like go do this somewhere where you pay for it and don't force me to fund it? And that's seen as, of course, oppression.
I just always see this fucked up relation between my body, my choice, while the like they say, oh, they only care about the baby while it's in the mother's body. But in America, it's usually the mothers decide to circumcise their infant boys. When it's their body, their choice, then it doesn't matter. It's the mother's choice. It's the parent's choice,
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Is if anybody who is pro-choice, there's no question. I mean, really, you can make the argument from either angle because it's such a no-brainer. But some people that having a brain is too much to ask sometimes. It's literally no brain. But the second point is also really interesting. Counsel is meant to kidnap children either legally or illegal and to default on alimony, health, and child support payments. So literally you have like women's advocates who counsel women on how to maximize their government benefits, right? And on how to make sure they get things like child support and how to make sure they get full custody. Like literally all of these things are being perpetrated by the women's movement. And she's claiming the women's movement isn't doing these things, but it should be, right?
Yeah, it's like this Karen Strong story where she talked about her divorce and her lawyer was trying to tell her what she would have to claim, which was not provable, so she would get most out of her ex-husband. And she was disgusted by, just say that he was domestically violent, You don't need any proof. If you just do some teary-eyed statement, they will probably just believe it and you will get custody. And she was like, no, we are divorcing because we kind of drifted apart in our lives and I don't want to harm this guy. He's a nice guy.
That's also, sorry to take this on a slight tangent, but that's why I wonder if legal action is really going to be sufficient to mediate many of these issues. So, for instance, the libertarian solution to the whole marriage question could deal with some problems in alimony and divorce, like if people, retards accepted, of course, were able to just kind of draft their own personalized marriage contracts with terms and stipulations and who gets what if this happens and so on. That could ameliorate many of these issues, but the problem with that and with prenups as well is that it's only effective at preventing divorce rate for some portion of people. It's kind of a crapshoot because you could just get a judge who will say something like, the woman will claim that she didn't understand the terms of the contract. Like, she'll claim that in the moment of reading or drafting up the terms of the contract, she regressed to the mental level of a 7-year-old, or actually, no, sorry, that's a bad way of saying it, but regressed to the level of a retard mentally so that she couldn't understand the terms of the contract, and the judge will actually buy that. So I'm thinking, in many cases, maybe what you've got to look at for this kind of thing is maybe just AIs replacing judges at some point when the tech is available. There's already openings in the legal profession for AI to do a few things, like these little paralegal things, some computer-assisted stuff going on there. So maybe we're going to have to wait for that before we can actually get impartial rulings on this kind of thing, because I'm not convinced that they've ever been fair, really. It's incredible the number of little variables that can affect judges' decisions. Like, I've seen some data on this, like whether or not the judge had breakfast or slept a certain number of hours can have a real effect on the outcome of a case. So yeah, we need AI judges.
Yeah, but I also heard a case from Australia last year where the wife claimed that she only signed the prenup under duress because he wouldn't marry her if he didn't sign it.
Yeah, which is like, that's kind of the definition, like.
Yeah.
But no,
They
but
use
that's
that
the
as an
thing.
argument to ignore it. Like, okay, that doesn't make any fucking sense, but go on, please.
We
But
need
she's
machines to deal.
crying. But she's sad.
We need machines to deal with this because they don't care about things like that. I think that's all that's going to do it.
Well,
ultimately.
and the cool thing about AI judges is, in theory, if you make like thousands of these, you could run the same case through like multiple different ones and just like look at an aggregate of all of the results of the rulings and then choose something that's like tested so many times. Like, I think it's actually potentially a really, really awesome way to do things. Of course, what people will do is they'll look at the results and they'll say, oh my god, like, since we moved to AI judges, women are getting double the sentences they used to get, and they're convicted way more often. This is awful. These robots are misogynists. You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know that. Yeah, it reminds me of. I've always thought that one of the best ways to improve the school system would be to make it illegal for to make it a mandatory thing that students, the teachers would never know the tests and the grades, the things that they were grading, who actually wrote this. They would have to give it to them somehow. There'd be no name, on it, and there'd be a system. I don't know, some sort of code system that switches every time. Just because teachers are so obviously biased in favor of girls, and if we could do everything like that, it would sort everything out. Like, didn't they start doing some crap like that with I don't know, like job applications, and then it turned out that women were never getting hired anymore?
Well,
Yeah, in Australia.
Yeah, so they threw it out for that reason. That's exactly what'll happen to these judges in the first wave.
The only problem that I can see with that in the context of schooling is that it's usually, if it's handwritten, you can usually tell if it's a boy or a girl's writing, so there's that. But I guess you could get around that by just insisting that all work be done on computers. I mean, a lot of it is.
Yeah, easily. It should be anyway.
There was actually a UN study on that.
Keep it handwritten.
International UN study that featured like 38 countries, and they've, on average, figured out that if you told the teachers that were grading that it was a girl, they gave it like 33% higher grades because they thought they were grading a girl.
No, yeah, all of the tests on that are like really scathing. They'll show that there's more bias in female teachers, that the male teachers are more fair. And also, this is true if you try to measure it objectively, and also if you ask the students, male or female, who they perceive the more fair teachers are. Both the girls and the boys would be like, oh yeah, it's the males. In general.
And the other thing is, like, they did this anonymization of hiring in public service in Australia, and they figured out after a year that they used to discriminate against the majority. Like, they would hire minority people, and they would hire women more likely if they knew that they were hiring women or minorities. So they scratched that program because they realized, oh, we're already biased against the thing that we're supposed to be biased on. Based on accusations of bias, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, and those kind of programs always catch up with you somewhere. They're not merit-based. If it's not merit-based, it's always going to, at some point or at multiple points, going to start to have the truth. It's just like, it's like cheating on a test, you might get your grade in the short run, but eventually, the test was there for a reason. It was testing for something, and the difference between the score you got for having cheated versus what you would have actually gotten, that difference will catch up to you sooner or later.
It's actually worse than that in practice, because if this kind of thing ends up happening, this kind of artificial inflation of grades in a discipline like, say, engineering, it's potentially going to result in deaths, like lots of them. So, like, you know what I mean? Bridges collapsing and so on.
It actually already happened.
Yeah, that already happened.
I think it was in America. They had one bridge over a street, like a passenger bridge, or like a.
Yeah, in Florida or whatever. I think I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of fucking like amazing how like these people didn't like get checked to like if they had any like proper knowledge of how like these buildings are like built. Like just because they have a vagina doesn't mean that they're qualified.
It's not conclusive that it was because of vagina. They had just put out a note that they had an almost all-female team building that bridge, and like a week later it collapsed. So
Yeah, it also really kind of puts the lie to the idea that men who work in the construction industry are misogynists.
No, it
They
doesn't. The men
sabotage-
sabotaged the bridge because they wanted to make that point.
Yeah.
Also,
they
the
killed some
Swedish
people just to
snowplows.
make a point.
The feminist snowplows, that was another really kind of comical failure. Like, that one's funnier just because, like, yeah, there's dangers to it, but at least that wasn't like a bridge collapsing.
Was that in Sweden or whatever?
Yeah, they were trying to plow the streets in such a
of
way
course
to
it was.
privilege pedestrians over main main high traffic areas.
Oh God. And when that country turns into Africa, it's going to be their fault. Sorry, had to throw that in there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna feel bad for Sweden.
More like Middle East, don't you?
Yeah, sorry.
Splitting hairs.
Yeah, I'm not
Anyway.
gonna feel bad.
I just want to gloss through these other points. She mentions lobbying against state-initiated actions against deadbeat dads. So the first thing is she's acknowledging the existence of state initiatives that go after deadbeat dads, right? And this is in her part where she's claiming that there's no women's movement that does any of these things. So the double think is tangible. But the other thing, too, is I'm sure we're all aware, when you have child support payments, women are less likely to pay them. They're a much smaller proportion of people who are ordered to pay child support, but when you order a woman to pay child support, they tend to not pay, and they tend to escape the consequences. I think it's very rare for a woman to end up in jail over failure to pay, whereas, the same obviously is not true for men. The fourth one... Oh yeah, and then she has this whole claim about basically that men are trying to defend men who are accused of beating their wives or of being beaten, right? The whole domestic violence stats. This is just projection. You can look up the Duluth model versus the conflict tactics scale, and it's very obvious which one is ideological, which one is trying to manipulate the research to get a certain result. In fact, the criticisms of CTS are that it's not ideological enough, basically.
Yeah, it might not even be projection, though, because, I don't know anything about her, but I can easily imagine that she doesn't even know much about the details of these methodologies of domestic violence measurement and so on. Like, I can easily imagine that she doesn't know anything about it.
Yeah, she might just be, she got the conclusion from, like, Gloria Steinem or something, and is just kind of parroting it. And then the last one's just fucking OG UBI, just boring communist garbage. They're all communists.
Interesting.
As I began to work actively on behalf of women who were targets of this growing movement, I was surprised when a good number of feminists seemed to support fathers' rights, in the mistaken hope that if we allowed men even more rights than they already had, they'd become more responsible and nurturant, at least to their own children. Or if we counseled women to give up custody of children, that they and other women would choose to devote themselves to feminist pursuits instead. In 1979, in With Child, A Diary of Motherhood, I wrote about motherhood as a feminist and spiritual pursuit. However, many feminists were not yet interested in motherhood as a feminist pursuit. Feminists have no difficulty uniting around the issue of women's reproductive rights and health. We all understand that the opposition to women's rights to control our own bodies is about maintaining men's power. But the issue of fatherhood and male parenting has proved to be far more complex and divisive. I have found that my pro-woman position embarrasses and threatens the kind of perfectly good liberal feminist who is not concerned with a woman's right to choose motherhood when our right to abortion is in such jeopardy, who ardently believes in the ideal of male parenting and joint custody and in the reality of lesbian adoption, and the rights of the lesbian co-mother and adoptive couple over and against the rights of the lesbian biological mother or the non-lesbian. Third world impoverished birth mother. This is just, it's in a weird list at the bottom here. And this is the kind of feminist who views the right to have an abortion or to choose non-custodial motherhood as somehow morally and politically superior choices than the right to retain custody of the child you chose to have. So now she's criticizing, other feminists for having the wrong kind of feminism because, it's always been about gynocentrism, right? It's women and women first, and oops, what happens when women want different things? Well, now they're just going to fight over what's best for all women. So this is a very comical case of them eating their own, but I don't know, there were some really interesting examples she gave here. I need to reread this part about the lesbians because my brain got a little twisted. Let's see, where
I get this weird mental tangent about how many lesbian abortions take place. For them, it's really just a choice to have a child. They have to go out of their way to get pregnant. What the fuck? If that was I don't even know.
Right. So she's criticizing perfectly good liberal feminists who do all these things. And one of the ones she listed, the one about lesbians, was the right of the lesbian co-mother and adoptive couple over and against the rights of the lesbian biological mother or the non-lesbian. So I don't understand why she means the biological mother. Right?
But if there's non-lesbian, that would mean they have a surrogate mom.
Oh,
right?
no, or the non-lesbian third world impoverished birth mother. So apparently the birth mother, she's drawing it out as a concern if it's a lesbian birth mother or a third world impoverished birth mother.
That's stretching your mind to some degrees. It's
okay. So I guess what she's saying is that some of these pro-women feminists will argue that the biological mother should have the right over lesbians that are adopting. This just seems retarded. I don't know what she's saying. And I'm wondering how many conversations realistically has she had about something this esoteric?
Maybe the circles she traveled had some lesbian couples that adopted from the third world, and so she thinks it's a normal thing that there's lesbian couples that adopt children, and I wouldn't call it abnormal, it happens, but that's 0.01% of the population. How is it even relevant?
Yeah, well, there is also the problem where, all these statistics about lesbian parenthood, a lot of them were solicited because lesbians would hang out with other lesbians, and then they'd have all their lesbian friends in their lesbian conclaves, with their lesbian world order, right? Who would manipulate the data because obviously that would bias everything. So it may be the case that they're kind of clustering. To me it's weird because I don't really cluster with other gay people, so I can't really relate to that sort of thing. But I guess it is kind of more often the case than not that people do, cluster a little bit.
It's really weird, the situation with lesbians and gay men in my country, where the gay men that I know, which I know more of than lesbians, they're not organized. They don't go to these gay gatherings or stuff. They're just homosexuals, It's just a private thing that they do. Of course, they go out as a couple, but they don't see them as a part of a community or anything. It's just their thing,
Yeah, I think it's a narrow aspect of someone's identity that I think that the people who kind of let it take over is because there's not really much else going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go on.
So yeah, so then I need to switch the page. I am negligent in my duties. Let's see. Alright, I'll remove this one. Okay. So she says, I grant that the issue is exceedingly complex and does not lend itself to simplistic solutions. Yet, as I see it, once feminists began fighting for equal pay and for the right to abortion, the backlash was on. If women wanted the right to leave men or take men's jobs away from them, then men and women who support them would simply repossess women's children as well as women's bodies. While feminists, to our credit, may want to be fair to men, patriarchs are anything but fair to women. So she's complaining that women don't get to keep everything, I guess. Like, on the one hand, she's wording this as women taking men's jobs away, right? You know, even though that's kind of inaccurate, right? That's employers choosing to hire women instead of hiring men. That's not taking someone's job. That's a voluntary transaction. But the natural reciprocal to this would be, yeah, if we're going to move away from traditionalism, you know, that means that neither men nor women are constrained by that. So...
Yeah, but they took their jobs.
Right, but she's setting this thing up where it's like literally men are trying to take custody of their children because it's out of revenge, I guess. Out of revenge for not having a job they would have otherwise. There's multiple levels where this really isn't making any sense. Can you imagine, are there men who are complaining about women taking a job that they would have otherwise? I'm sure you can find an example, but I don't think this is
it's just
an
a
argument.
very lazy way of them defending their double standard.
Yeah, I don't see any argument here. I don't quite get it. I guess I just don't get it.
And I really don't see like the men, like, of course after World War II the women flowed into the workplace, at least in America and most Western countries, and you could see it as them taking your jobs, but I don't think most men actually felt it that way. Like, they don't see that as this issue, like, just be the best person to get the job, not oh, she took my job. That's only coming because of quotas right now, where you actually have men making legitimate complaints that they were more qualified but were refused the job because they had to fill a female quota.
Yeah, and these kinds of claims are only going to come, you know, years after we've seen the women's movement, you know, make that their bread and butter. So, you know, the idea that men are doing this in a frivolous way. You know? Huh? Oh, I was just going to say the idea that men are doing it in like a frivolous way that doesn't make any sense. Insofar as that criticism could be valid of some cases where men do it, I think it's going to be absolutely dwarfed by the female claims. But again, you know, feminists don't do comparisons. They're very good at making comparative statements, but they're not very good at doing the actual comparison part. And I think that that's really what's missing here. Her argument seems to rely upon this notion that patriarchy is unfair, that whenever a man gets custody of his children over the woman, it's because he colluded with the patriarchal overlords to make it happen. But she hasn't really given us any evidence or any reason to believe that. And I think that's also a problem with most of these essays, is they're kind of just presuming that everybody already agrees with all of their facts, but then all of their facts are wrong. So it just doesn't age well.
Sometimes it's a list of assertions based on assertions that they made earlier in the text, and there's no proof for any of those assertions.
Mm-hmm. It's a house on a weak foundation. Well, it's a mud hut on a bad foundation. Sorry, not mud hut, grass hut. That's the paleo quote. Anyway.
And also, it's really just dismisses the whole men having this instinct to care for women, like, or to value them more. Like, the male deplorability is completely ignored. we are this evil group of patriarchs that meet in backdoor rooms and twirl our mustaches. I should grow a mustache I can twirl so that just can fill this stereotype.
Yeah,
That's why half the time I'm blaming men, anyways, because they're the other men's worst enemy. Like, if men actually cared enough about other men, none of this would have fucking happened.
Sorry,
Yep.
I'm just distracted. My friend messaged me saying that there's an MTR rail that's derailed, and I don't know if there's any like bad weather or any reason that would happen, and I'm wondering if it's related to like protests or something like that. Well, good
Aren't
thing I
you
tried
having
to.
a
Good thing I
heat wave where
stayed
you live?
inside and just shat posted and made fun of feminists all day. I'm not gonna
Shat
have to
post.
worry about any of that.
That's the proper past tense.
Shat post. I like that.
yes, technically it should be shat posted.
Yeah, I like shat post. All right, let's see what other wisdom Miss Phyllis has for us. Goddess bless. Since I examined this new auxiliary backlash in Mothers on Trial, first published in 1986, more than 5,000 mothers have called or written, "I'm in your book," they say. "It's as if you knew my story personally." Yeah, emphasis on the word story. Father's rights
That's
active-
like
Sorry?
when psychic mediums throw out this really general set of ideas, or people who call themselves psychics, and people think it applies to them, because it sounds like something really personal, but it's actually so general that it could apply to anyone.
You mean cold
Oh
reading?
yeah, you're such an Aquarius girl.
Yeah.
Oh my god, you're so right, because sometimes I do feel really lazy, but then you said that other times I'm really, really motivated, and that really spoke to me.
You know what? I sometimes. Do you ever feel all alone in a crowded room?
I'm getting a name, like it starts with an F. Is it feminist?
I'm getting a a rah. Ralph! Oh my gosh, yes, that's what I was hearing.
My name's Ralph. Well, of course.
Yeah, I've literally seen shit where, sorry to derail this again, but like, the psychic mediums, they'll do things like, they'll throw out some extremely, in England for instance, some extremely common English name, like, I don't know, James or something, and it'll be like, oh, I'm thinking like, you had a great grandfather or something called James, and they don't even know what their great grandparents were called, so they have to like go out of their way to look it up. Or sometimes, they don't do that. They'll just say, "Oh, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about," even if it's all bullshit. And then it just continues like that, with them saying these really weird general things that could apply to all kinds of people, like, "Oh, you're of this generation and your family served in the military, as all of them did, and he sustained an injury in this location, like a bruise or something." And it's actually amazingly easy to do. Sorry to derail this, but yeah, I think it's amusing.
I want to pull that shit here in China. I'll be like, I think you're connected to someone with the name Li or Wong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but
They're like, no way!
I read something, I forgot the number, like they insist on an audience that is like 400 or something people, because it's like the minimum number to have a standard chance to get these things right to some accuracy. Like all these cold reading people, they just say, I will do this event if you have this amount of people in the audience, so that's my bullshit will correlate with someone's life story.
And then we get
Really
QAnon.
funny.
And then we get QAnon. Who will save the world entirely on accident. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, but anyway, let's stop this derailment, I guess.
Alright, let's go back to mocking battered women who claim this book resonated with them.
Oh, fucking Jesus.
That's what you should call this stream: mocking battered women.
Mocking battered women. I prefer them. I prefer
triggering
them.
factor would get so much interaction, you will rise on YouTube just
Would
because of
possibly.
the negative comments.
Yeah, would possibly get you banned, but
Oh no. Whatever.
yeah.
I'm actually shocked that I'm unbanned on Facebook currently. It's rare. I think it's like less than 30
Oh, yeah, I
days
saw-
total of the year I've been unbanned on Facebook.
So, how many subscribers do you think you're gonna get on YouTube before you do get like a strike or something?
Oh, I think that I might get mum-keyed once I hit 1,000. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes.
Some channels are just like taken off like completely. They don't even get a.
Well, it's so inconsistent. Like with TFM, his channel hasn't been removed. They just literally removed all the content. So like normally there would be a message like this channel has been disabled due to community standard violation. That's what it said on Anna's profile forever, and I was just like no, and I'm still subscribed because I hope one day they'll restore her, but they never will. So I'll never see her haikus again, which makes me very sad. And I mention it on like virtually every stream I'm on because I miss her.
Yeah, they kind of stopped giving reasons as well because they did it in mass in the last few months. Like, even if videos get taken down, they don't give you a reason. They say, oh, it's a community strike. Like, what did I do wrong? We can't tell you. We're banning so many people. I can't tell you the details. We didn't even have any details.
I mean, it's fine though. We're in the post-banning age. Like, everybody knows that there's a threat of being banned for no reason. If you say anything interesting, you're gonna get banned eventually. If you've said anything interesting, they can comb through your stuff and they will find something to ban you over. And what you do is you just ride the Streisand effect. That's it. You just back your shit up, and you ride the Streisand effect.
move
You
to
whine and play
BitChute,
victim
I
on
guess.
whatever media platform you have, and then you just go that way, and you just make your own hub somewhere else so that people can still follow you. You know.
Yeah, BitChute is actually becoming surprisingly viable, to be honest, as an alternative. It's still nowhere near the same size as YouTube, obviously, but I mean, I
Yeah.
have seen people.
It was the day
Well,
they
what-
banned Black Pigeon Speaks. Like, that was... And they're like, oh shit, bring him back.
Yeah, but I have seen people on Discord with tens of thousands of subscribers. So
Is Styx still number one? I think Styx was number one for the longest time. Styx was the PewDiePie of BitChute.
Last time I checked, he was. I think Sargon's gonna overtake
It does
him.
make sense. Styx was also huge on mine.
Oh, Styx, he's playing the game right.
He
like,
is.
But I'm not making a pun because he's right wing, because that's just a sane conservative to me. Like, it's not a right wing persona in my book, but you know, the media, everybody right of left is right wing lunatic. And
I saw a new version
yeah, but
of the Political Compass
just
where
back up yourself.
it just says
If you ask me,
everyone's...
just back it up, and you can upload it to BitChute if you actually get to the point where I care about you.
No, yeah, you said to automatically do it. I think that my videos are automatically mirrored on BitChute. I'm on BitChute. Everybody can follow me on BitChute. Actually,
You're
it'd
on
be funny
BitChute?
if I had more subscribers on BitChute than YouTube. That wouldn't be that hard for me to achieve, I don't think. I could try it.
Let's just try to save the content. But let's get going with this.
Alright, let's continue to the next part. So she says, I'm in your book, they say. It's as if you knew my story personally. Fathers' rights activists, both men and women, do not call or write. Instead, they picket my lectures and threaten lawsuits. In media debates, they literally shout at me, trying to drown out what I have to say. Why don't you admit it? They demand. Ex-wives destroy men economically. They deprive fathers of visitation and brainwash the children against them. Fathers should have rights to alimony and child support. Joint custody should be mandatory. Why do you refuse to see it our way? We've already convinced legislators and lawyers, judges and social workers, psychiatrists and journalists, and many feminists with what we're saying is true. Indeed, they have. I know about their convictions from first-hand experience. I've been denied employment and threatened with firing. I've been sued by fathers' rights activists, threatened with imprisonment, and received many feminist share of obscene phone calls and death threats. Received my feminist share of obscene phone calls and death threats. After one particularly harrowing encounter with these activists at a public gathering, I found a dead animal at my door. Early in 1986, for the first time in U.S. history, the FBI convened a grand jury on an ostensibly domestic matter to question me about the whereabouts of a runaway mother and her 2 allegedly sexually abused children. They had reason to believe I'd helped her. Friends, 1986 was not my favorite year. But in part because of the intense reaction to my work, I've come to think of myself as a freedom fighter or abolitionist opposed to female slavery. I've learned to take myself seriously, not only because others support my views, but also because they oppose them. Not only because others support my views, but also because they oppose them. So there you go. She is stunning and brave. She is the Anita Sarkeesian prototype. This actually makes me really want to look more into her history. I haven't looked into that so much, but I'm like, do you guys want to guess whether or not these claims that she supported a bunch of frivolous and awful claims of fake domestic violence and child abuse, that her critics were 100% correct? I just feel like in the 90s, if they had any traction at all and any popular support, definitely she was in the wrong.
Also, you have to question: is there any evidence of her getting fucking dangerous shit sent to her house or something? I don't know.
Honestly,
probably not. Of course,
I think the dead animal claim is hoax hate. I'm just gonna call it hoax hate. I'll bet that dead animal, whatever it was, had a backward swastika on it. It had a backward swastika on it.
Teddy bear. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. It may have happened, but at the same, I don't know. I can feel for fathers who can't see their kids. So
yeah, I'm not gonna say I deny it. I'm just gonna say I doubt it. Doubt is a very healthy.
I just think she might not have been this high profile to actually be a target at that time, because that was kind of rare. You would have to be a high profile person to even be a target of that, and I don't know if she was.
Or a massive fucking.
I know that she was that.
Well, the other thing, too, is if all this stuff was, in trials and all brought out, and you had all these facts come forward, surely, by now, she'd be able to say, yeah, look, all this stuff was proven, right? If it's still kind of in this gray area where we got nothing but her word to go on, then, I don't know, I'm going to look more into her. I'm going to look more into her and follow up on her and look into these salacious claims she's making. Because I'm sure it's a gold mine.
Probably just claims and bull.
You know, it's like when Andrea Dworkin claimed that she got raped, and everyone's like,
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
The mental image of that is honestly a bit terrifying.
I don't think anyone would want to rape you. So
you wanna talk about a novel method of torture, showing somebody a video of Andrea Dworkin having even consensual sex would just be fucking hell.
Oh god, don't even fucking put that in.
Yeah, and I get that it's a really grotesque argument that, you're so ugly that I literally can't ever believe any rape claim against you, but...
It's also an accurate one, though.
But it's Andrea Dworkin.
I only have that
it's
for,
just, it's Andrea
feminist...
Dworkin.
I only have that for, feminist politicians who say they get sexually harassed a lot, and I feel I'm sorry, I know how you look. I can't buy that people are dog or wolf whistling at you. I can't see that happening.
All right, I actually remember Goodfella, the Scottish anti-feminist guy on YouTube. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but
yeah, me and him are best friends on Twitter. I sent him a lady video and he liked it, and that made my day.
Yeah, well, he was pointing this out at some point. Anytime there's some high profile, and incidents like this are sometimes high profile in the UK, as in they make news because it's that kind of country. An incident of catcalling or something, and there'll be two women on the news arguing about it. Like there'll be a woman who's I don't want to say pro catcalling, but I guess just not against it or neutral towards it, and then the other woman is against it. And it seems it does seem to be a very regular thing that the woman who is most viciously protesting about it is almost invariably the fat one, and the thin, attractive one is the one who's kind of whatever about it. Like,
yeah, and what I was about to say was, like I said, I think this goes back into your point, actually. I think that, like, there's a stigma against calling women that are ugly in our society.
Did you just want to say pigs instead of women? Nah.
No, not that mean. But I don't know. And like, people, like, although people wanted to say that to Andrea Dworkin, like, they didn't. But I think that, like, part of the reason why they never said that is because there's a stigma, like, of being, like, a stigma, but, like, you can't be mean to women like that. You can't, like, have a sassy fucking attitude about it. You can't, like, critique their appearance because that's off limit. Misogynist.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely if you're a man.
You want to know why? You want to know why? If you say that they're bad looking, what else do they have? I mean, it's not.
XD.
You cheeky cunt, Prince.
That's a highly astute observation, but yeah.
Sorry, I'm in a mood today, or for whatever reason, I really enjoy calling women stupid. It's not that I actually think these things. It just feels fun.
Yeah, I can understand that. I sometimes have those, like, phases.
Well, you know what they say, it only hurts if it's true. So
But on it being stigmatized to call women ugly or whatever, it's like, it's also the same reason that male body acceptance isn't a thing. It's like when people talk about fat shaming, there is a subtext to all that talk about fat shaming, and what it really is about is fat woman shaming. Yeah, it's like what's considered socially taboo almost always overlaps perfectly with what's taboo to women. So you can't criticize women's appearance, and in an environment where there are lots of fat women, they're going to demand that you find their fatness attractive, and so on.
Oh, yeah, no, I want to find... I actually had this meme saved of the real body positivity movement, of what it would actually look like. Oh, no, I don't have it. Let me see. Body pause. Yes, I have it right here. Awesome. I'm going to put it on the screen. Bam! Right here. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this meme. It's like my favorite meme ever. I just noticed that there's Vivian James at the end of it. I love that.
Spaceman, can I stop you for a second? You said on YouTube? Because I went to your YouTube channel. It didn't look like there was a live stream.
There should be. I posted the link in the Discord.
Yeah, I'm watching it right now. I just don't see the image. Or like,
that is funny, by the way.
Yeah, it should be showing this. Everyone is beautiful, and then on the margins you have like people with like crippling disabilities and skin diseases, and like a fat man getting his fedora knocked off, and it's all just like cute women. Some of them are a little curvy.
Wait, but that black woman with the amputee, she would normally be.
Yeah, also there would be a woman with the vitiligo stuff that the black guy has.
Is that a trans with vitiligo?
Oh, vitiligo, is that how you say it?
I suppose you can say it either way.
Yeah,
but I love this meme. It's my favorite. I'm just going to put it down here. We're just going to put it down here.
My maternal grandfather has vitiligo, actually. Of course, with him, it's nowhere near... It doesn't look anywhere near as hideous because he's white.
My sister has... I always made fun of her, and I feel kind of bad.
Is he, turning albino?
Sorry, what did you say?
It's just I never conceived of a white person having vitiligo, so I'm like, what is he like turning albino or?
It's just his skin looks like vampiric. Basically, he looks like a vampire.
Yeah, how it usually looks on white people, because my sister has vitiligo. Like they'll have like fair skin like normally, but then the vitiligo parts will just be like pale. And it looks like there's.
Yeah, like
There was this really funny story. I haven't told this in a very long time. I used to always tell this, for a while. There was this really, really insane girl in my high school who I think she was claiming to be a lesbian. I'm positive she wasn't actually a lesbian. She was just really unattractive and probably had no ability to talk to males.
Yeah, that does have an unfortunate tendency to happen, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, we talk about the likelihood of lesbians being real. That's the thing that we bring up. But the thing was, like, so we had a lounge in my high school, and this girl just certifiably had no ability to say things that made sense in general. Like, we had these school meetings because it was an alternative school. Every time she talked, it would go on, and nobody could actually really discern anything from like what she was actually trying to say. It was so funny. So I remember I was in the lounge one time and she was like, penises are just so weird. Like they're gross and they just kind of like come out of nowhere. It's just like there's this thing like just like hanging there. Like it's just like this unnatural thing that just comes out of nowhere. And she's like, and women don't have anything like that. Like, and that's why women are better or something, And I'm like, what about breasts? And she's like, breasts? And she's like, breasts are beautiful. Like, she was so bad sounding.
My favorite was, I think it was Schopenhauer. I was listening to some of his, kind of just like a... like a snapshot of some of his views, and there were some quotes in there, and like I think he was describing the male versus female body, and he's just like, have you looked at the female body? Like, it's obvious like that the men are the more aesthetically preferable of the two, right? He's super funny.
Yeah, he called women like the unaesthetic sex or something.
Yeah,
and it was something like, sorry, I'm trying to remember the actual quote. It was something like if not for the sex drive, he describes it in much more vivid language than this, but basically, if not for the male libido, there would be nothing interesting or appealing about women's bodies. Whereas,
I was about to say it would be actually really easy to get women, like you could somehow trick women into admitting that, females and female bodies are not actually attractive by first talking about how men are so incredibly horny that they'll have sex with basically anything and be like, so yeah, makes sense that they'll have sex with women, just because they like, first you can get them to say, oh yeah, they'd probably have sex with dogs, right? Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, and that's so they'll even have sex with you.
Oh Jesus!
I remember Amy Schumer.
You walked right into
Amy Schumer, who's like a feminist or something. Like she's a comedian, quote unquote. But she even said something like that. Like she was poking fun at men's capacity for sexual variety seeking or their willingness to have sex with people who are kind of ugly, and she was making fun of it in that context. But I don't think she realizes that it doesn't reflect terribly well on herself.
She's a master of self-owns. I have to give her that.
One thing you can't take away.
We're just calling women ugly now.
Whoops. Yeah, have we degenerated? Okay, let's... Oh,
Let's
hey,
get on
Raw
with the
Unplanned
text, I
Dance
guess.
is here.
This was a long tangent.
Raw Unplanned Dance has my favorite name of any person on YouTube. Oh, wait. There's one person who's also... No, he's not my favorite because of his name, because of his comments, is NYC Korean MGTOW. I don't know if you've seen comments by NYC Korean MGTOW.
Eric.
What?
Can I quickly like send you the actual Schopenhauer quote? I've just found it.
Oh, yeah. Actually, do you want to just read it?
Did you see my stream with Unplanned Dance?
Yeah, I've just sent a DM to you, Derek. Yeah.
Wait, is that who you had that one time?
Yeah, like last week. That was
Yeah,
him.
so not the last Gatriarchy, because that was with Visions of Color. It was before, right?
Yeah, the one before that.
I didn't realize that. Anyways, that was him.
Yeah. He looks like he's like East Asian. Not East Asian, sorry, Southeast Asian or South Asian, I don't know. I forget what you call people who look like they're from maybe, India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, or whatever.
South Asian. Southeast Asian is like Thailand and shit.
I don't know. They're not really Asian.
It was
So
Ali
continent,
Wong
maybe?
did the division of fancy Asian versus jungle Asian. I don't think that's I'm not sure how universal we should use that.
Derek, did you get my DM or whatever?
No, let me see. Yes, I have it. Okay, so this is the only a male intellect clouded by the sexual drive could call the stunted, narrow-shouldered, broad-hipped, and short-legged sex the fair sex. More fittingly than the fair sex, women could be called the unaesthetic sex. Neither for music, nor poetry, nor the plastic arts do they possess any real feeling of receptivity. If they affect to do so, it is merely mimicry in service of their effort to please. Mean. You know who else is like super mean to women is Wollstonecraft, Mary Wollstonecraft. Man, she hated women. It was hilarious. She was like, "How come women are so dumb and read romance novels? I hate all of you." Hey, Raw Unplanned Dance, if you're in my Discord, this week is special. This week is anybody in my Discord, just hop into voice channel. And for most of the stream, we've had more people on technically than viewers, and that's how I like it. I think that's fine. So if you're on Discord, I posted the link at the top of the chat. You can hop in. What is this?
Can I
This
just
is
mention
your
one
Discord handle.
small?
Well, I don't need your handle. You just have to join my server and then drag yourself in, and then I can friend you.
Raw Unplanned Dance, there's a link at the top.
Yeah, it's also on my main page too. That's just my eternal Discord link. So my channel is actually very like wide open to have somebody just infiltrate it and fill it with spam and get it taken down or whatever. But I'm very fortunate
I think that's him right now.
Yeah, as a small
Then you
YouTuber, I can
uncovered
just
my
like
secret
do
plan.
this. Yeah, maybe someday I won't be able to do this, so I'm going to enjoy it while I can.
He joined the Discord. He's in.
Just click on the voice chat.
Yeah, you can click on voice chat and hop right in. And come on down. Yes, we had a couple of friends in here earlier, and I explained, like, I'm going to be going live with the Discord, so if you don't want to be live, then you might want to leave. And they're like, oh my god, I want to leave. I'm like, okay.
Just stay in chat if you don't want to be heard. Ah, cool.
Alright, let's keep on trudging on.
Who is this guy? Sorry?
He's somebody around YouTube, and he was on Prince of Queens channel, I guess, last week.
Oh, cool.
I didn't see it because I think I was trying to sleep for my stream. If that was the timing, if I don't quite remember.
On the men having no standards thing, like it was the most disillusioned moment in my whole puberty when I was like 17, when I realized that chicks that aren't that attractive that I would still be sexually interested in, that they don't have a better character. Like I was raised on the belief by television and everything that the people who are ugly on the outside are beautiful on the inside, and I realized that that is not the case. Like,
yeah, well, there's the classic chart of like pretty and crazy, and It's like a hockey stick.
There should be a chart for the not so beautiful ones, I guess, because they can
Hey,
be.
Kapow, do you want to be just called Kapow instead of Ra? Oh, does he have a?
He has a headset. He
got
wrote
the
in the
headset.
Discord.
Oh, okay.
All right, let's continue.
Yeah.
Where am I? We were so off. Oh, that's right. So she's an abolitionist. She's fighting female slavery. What is different about this backlash is that some feminists support it. They argue that the best way to achieve women's liberation is through a gender-neutral approach, by treating women and men, mothers and fathers, as if they were the same, i.e., all white men, and as such, deserving of equality. But men and women and mothers and fathers are not equal under patriarchy. The equal treatment of unequals is unjust, and the gender-neutral approach often backfires. In Mothers on Trial, I challenge the myth that mothers always win custody. The myth that fit mothers always win custody. Indeed, I found that when fathers fight, they win custody 70% of the time, even when they have been absentee or violent fathers. Okay, so quick aside, the reason this is bullshit, who wants to guess, or who knows the answer? Why is this claim bullshit?
Oh, you cut out, I think.
Okay, the reason that this claim, when fathers actually fight for custody, they win 70% of the time. The reason they don't fight it.
The reason
is
I
because
think this is bullshit is that the first time I ever heard of a men's movement was in my country was because of men who fought really hard for custody that didn't get it, even if they had reasonable proof that the women, like the mothers, abused the children.
Yeah, well, why I'm asking is because I'm curious about where the 70% of the time they get the kids comes from. Is that are they just pulling that out of their ass? Or are they manipulating this?
Well, it doesn't matter. That's not the point. The reason it's bullshit is because the reason men fight so seldom is because you only choose to fight when you conceive that you have a reasonable chance at winning. That's why it's bullshit.
Yeah,
So
if the woman was abusing the kids or something like that.
That's true. That's a good point, Speak.
But the fact that the first men's movement I ever heard about in my country was exactly based on that it was men who had reason to fight for custody and didn't get it. Of course, this is from 1992, but at least when I was 15 and I heard about that movement, I thought damn, these guys had good reasons why they should have gotten the kids, but they didn't, so...
Alright, so, Upland, for picking up something from your mic.
Yeah, sorry about that. That was my air conditioning unit. Yeah.
Alright, baller. So looks like we're all here. Man, I actually really prefer using
you can call me
Kapow
for brevity's sake. I don't care.
Oh, that'd be easier.
Yeah.
I was gonna call you Kapow anyways.
Oh, that's fine.
But yeah, so that's the thing is with the law, you can kind of figure out what your odds are of winning a case, and often they just tell fathers it's not worth it to fight it. And then, if you are in a situation where you try to fight it and then end up losing, you're kind of even worse off than you would have been otherwise. So, anyway, maybe she'll address that. I did kind of stop halfway, so we'll see.
What's the name of the paper or the article that we're reading right now? Yeah, so
this one's called The Men's Auxiliary, written by Phyllis Chesler. And actually, in my server, I have a channel for Women Respond to the Men's Movement where I just post all of the pages. So all the ones that are on the page here.
I see it.
Yeah, you can actually get them all in there. And I'm going to start re-uploading them into that server and then posting the name of it, so that you can search for the name of the essay and then have all the pages there. I wish I had just thought to type the names of each of them before, so I just have this pile of papers in one of the
and they're all different orientations too.
I know, and Discord does that. That's not even my phone. That's literally Discord does that, I think.
Oh.
But for the first several streams, I was saving the thumbnails through Discord instead of the actual image, because I didn't want to just pull the images directly off my phone, because that was too hard. It was easier to just put them on Discord and save them back to my computer. But that's why they're all shit quality for the first several times I've done this series. So yeah, it's a little comedy of errors, but you know.
Just make sure you don't actually use the whole book for the videos. Like, I'm pretty sure they won't copyright strike you, but if you actually showcase every page of the book, they have a case.
I'm showcasing every page of the book. we've done every single page of the book.
When
I
was the
don't
book?
think they
When
are
was the
aware
book
that you're
written?
doing this.
Sorry, what?
I just asked when the book was written, but I can look it up myself.
Yeah, it's 1992. So it was actually written at
Oh,
different
so
times
it's-
because it's an anthology of little essays.
Oh, I see. That makes sense with the title.
But yeah,
Okay.
I'm saving, uploading, sharing around every individual page of it. And you know what? This is fair use because we're criticizing it. And like anybody listening to these streams knows that this isn't really a great audiobook. If you're looking for an audiobook of this, that's not what you're getting here. But yeah, maybe they'll come to my server and be like, hey, you uploaded every single page. But you know what? It's artistic expression. So there.
Autistic.
It's autistic expression. It's weaponized autism. And it really does feel that way when you're going through taking individual pictures and re-uploading them. I was like looking around, I was like, is there a service I can find that just scans a whole book for me and puts it on a USB? And they're like, no. And I'm like, why? I hate copyright. Copyright is a false god. Anyway.
Well, there is like I don't know if it scans, but online versions. Z Library has that. I think I sent you a link to that website at some point. Like they have pretty much every book in the world for free in like PDF format or EPUB or something. They probably don't have this though. It's too obscure.
There should be a website where you just record yourself holding up a book and just like every couple of seconds it'll just like record all your pages for you. I guess you could just set a camera to take pictures periodically. I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. Let's continue. Since then, other studies have demonstrated that when men fight, they win custody anywhere from 50 to 80% of the time, whether or not they have been involved in childcare or the economic support of the family. Although 80 to 85% of custodial parents are mothers, fathers who fight win custody not because mothers are unfit or because fathers have performed any housework or childcare, but because mothers are held to a much higher standard of parenting.
This is okay. That cannot be true, ever. The person actually literally said that fathers usually win custody even if they haven't given committed money towards the child rearing. There's no possible, like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The only way that would possibly make any sense, like, okay, if he doesn't have any money, how does he take in the bitch to court, first of all? But the only way that would possibly make sense is if the woman had, like, you know, gone out of state and he didn't know where the kid was, you know? Like, that's so dumb that they would even include that. Like, we're seriously supposed to believe that like, oh, this guy never gave any money, he never did anything, but he still won. It's like, no, there's a fucking reason for that. Shut the fuck up.
But Prince, the sentence had numbers in it. The sentence had numbers in it. That means it's science.
If that was in any time true, she's using numbers from like the 1950s or something.
Well, no,
The
what I
mother
think
probably
happened...
was beating shit.
No, Honks, go ahead.
No, yeah. The reason, if that actually is true, like the reason why, like Prince Queen's already said, is that the mother is so bad that the court just said no, thank you. We're giving it to the father, which is extremely rare, by the way. You have to be that much of a piece of shit to your kid.
Earlier, she was using numbers from the 70s. Like she's seriously willing to go back in time to make her case in the 90s. So we don't know if that might have been true in the past from her perspective, and from our perspective, it's like almost 100 years ago. If you know what I mean?
It probably wasn't even true in the 70s, though, I would guess.
My guess for this stat here is that there was maybe a study where it just shows, okay, we were seeing 50 to 80%, and then we don't control for or address factors such as economic involvement or childcare, right? And then she takes this to be, oh, so that doesn't even matter. And it's like, well, no, it's probably that the sample included various levels of all of that. But now the way that she's kind of depicting it is that those factors didn't have any impact at all. Which, I mean, we don't know because there's actually no citation here. Let me just check. At the end of this, yeah, so this essay doesn't have any citations. Usually they at least cite themselves. But
Such science, much wow.
yeah, right. But you know, studies say, you know, we're bringing teal deer for the citation needed. Let's see. So then she says, in custody battles, mothers are routinely punished for having a career or a job, because then she's a selfish absentee mother, or for staying home on welfare, because then she's a lazy parasite, for committing heterosexual adultery, or for living with a man out of wedlock. She's setting an immoral example, or for remarrying. She's trying to erase the real dad, or for failing to provide a male role model. She's a bitter, man-hating lesbian.
Excuse me. It says live stream offline on YouTube.
What? It still says live on my end, so it might have just been a
No,
hiccup.
I'm not getting that.
Yeah, sometimes it just goes offline.
Maybe it was just me.
Yeah, it just goes
Refresh
offline for a little
yourself
bit sometimes. We're good.
Speaking of man-hating lesbians, when the fuck is Black Knight?
I don't know, but I really want to have that stream. So
Yeah, I need this. And I asked him actually. He said he needs to order it. I'm just like, hurry up, please.
yeah, it might be something that's post ICMI 2019. So maybe it might be a September thing.
So
Are any of you guys going, by the way, to ICMI?
Yeah, I'm going.
I wish.
It should be interesting.
Well, you're going.
How much am I-
Space Hands,
how much
Are you
I-
gonna go see Count Clint Sargon? Or am I getting my shit mixed up?
How much am I going to owe you for that?
Well, it depends because both Logan McCree and Chadwick said they were also interested in going in on the room. So if it's split 3 ways, it's what, like $500?
Chadwick isn't going to be able to come.
Huh? Chad can't go?
No Chadwick.
Okay.
He can't.
Well, then there's Logan McCree, and then I think there's probably room for a fourth if a fourth person wants to use the room if they haven't found anything yet. But split 3 ways, that's what, like $150? $100 something? And that's for 4 nights.
I think it would be more like 100.
Right. Which I think that's a pretty good rate, because if you divide that by 4, right, that's like less than $50 a night.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like, if it's 4 people, it'll be 150.
Yeah, it's like 400. It's like 540 divided by 3 is 100. I don't know. I normally am actually pretty good at math on the spot, but since I'm streaming, I'm just like I can't do it. It's too early here. Wait, well, we'll figure it out. And the room said it has like a king bed and then another like sofa thing. And I think if we have a fourth person, we can even like get an extra thing. So it's probably realistic to find a fourth person if there's a person who, you know, like needs.
Hey, Space Pan.
accommodation.
Should be
I need a
Hey, Space
146.
Pan. I might
period
be
6.
interested in being the fourth.
Yeah, well, you'd have to get a conference ticket, dude.
If you you know, want to cut me in, you know, and have a conversation about logistics, I'm fucking shit at arithmetic, so I can't.
No, message me about it. But I will tell you the conference tickets are a little pricey. But yeah, we can
440
So-
divided by 3 is 146 period 6. So 150 rounded, if you ask me.
yeah, but it's 550.
What conference are you guys
550.
talking about?
This is the International Conference on Men's Issues.
Oh yeah, I saw
yeah.
you advertise that.
So
Yep,
that's
yeah.
180 straight. If
Yeah,
it's
like
550, 540, or 5. What did
Divided
you
by
say?
4. But
So
yeah, the
something
conference tickets, you can
close
buy
to
it for the
200.
whole weekend, or you can actually buy individual day tickets. And like, if you've already seen the Red Pill, I feel like if you were just gonna look at buying like 1 or 2 days, that like the Friday and the Sunday are probably potentially the more interesting days, but I feel like if you're down there,
If
you'd
you
kind
can
of want to
afford
be a
it,
part of the
just
whole
buy the
thing.
whole fucking thing because they really need the money.
Yeah,
I
there's a lot of people
I
who are
think that
buying
they
tickets and
just
then
dropped
also
the
donating.
price.
Huh?
Did they drop the?
You know, the price, there've been like a variety of different prices. Like I had a very early price that was only offered to like veterans, they say, people who had already attended before. But I think later they lowered the price to something kind of near that. So I didn't really keep track of what all the different offers were. And there's like one with a T-shirt,
Well, 'cause last
and one
time
with no T-shirt, and like different stuff.
Because I didn't look before, or sorry, I haven't bought mine yet. And when I looked before, it was like over $400, and now it's $389. I think they might be dropping them so that hopefully more people will buy them. I need to actually buy mine. I keep procrastinating on actually doing things. I'm a terrible person.
Yeah, if it's below 400, it's probably good to go ahead and grab it. And of course, anybody listening
If you
who's
can't
interested
afford
in-
it, you want to look into the limited stuff. But I saw that video by Alison Tiemann. I don't really know how to pronounce the name.
Yeah, it's T-Man, you got
Like,
it.
Tiemann, they really wagered a lot on this, and they can use if you can spend it, if you have the money somehow, just buy the whole damn thing. Like, they need it. They just lost a law case in Canada, I think, a few weeks ago or a few months.
Yeah, no, and that
They
case
need
was
that shit.
really rough because it really did seem like they had a lot going for them on it, and it was a very noble fight. I know they've taken a lot of criticism for for fighting that one, but that was a pretty outrageous
If you're
thing
tight
that
on money,
happened.
just get the cheaper tickets, if you know what I mean. Just
yeah,
attendance
yeah.
is very important as well.
But if you're hard on if you don't have a lot of funds, then I guess you'll have to look towards doing something cheaper. But if you do have the money to spare, absolutely, that's a good thing to keep in mind, that if you can do whatever. And then they do have like some VIP ones available too. So
Yeah, like if your life's purpose was to ever hang out with Sargon and Count Dankula, that's your chance,
oh, and like it's hard to even conceive of all the people that are going to be there. So there's going to be me there, and then Prince of Queens there, but then also of course you have Allison. I think Karen will be there. Brian, Hannah, so all the Honey Badger crew. Elizabeth Hobson, who I'm really excited to see her because me and her have been chatting about crafts because we both deal with little kids and do crafts, so we're like talking about like different ones that we've done. Yeah, and Sargon, Dankula.
Yeah, I'm likely
Philip
just
Davies.
gonna donate some money myself because I can't possibly attend because I'm in Europe and it's gonna cost me a fortune and a leg.
Right, it's good.
Yeah, they do fight a good fight. I much respect them.
Yeah, I'm traveling from Hong Kong, but that's because also I'm going to be staying in America for a while to like visit friends and family. So for me, I got kind of a 2-for-1 on that. But yeah, and I haven't been able to go since the very first one, so I'm very excited to go back to it.
Hey, so guys,
Yeah, you're on the Vice.
Yeah, Vice interviewed me, and then people were like,
Yeah,
"Why did you
the
talk to
face
them?
of
You're
toxic-
dumb." And I was like, "Oh, whoops."
Wait, I didn't ever hear about this. What did you say in the interview?
Oh, they asked me all kinds of questions about the conference and why I was there and what I thought about things or whatever.
Yeah, I saw that they cut you short.
Yeah,
Sadly.
they interviewed me
Yeah.
for like a long time. They interviewed me for like at least like 20 to 30 minutes of asking all kinds of things, and they ended up using maybe like 10 seconds. So I guess I didn't really say anything too incriminating that they could have taken out of context. I'd love to actually get that full interview because it'd be very interesting.
Was that still Tim Pool Weiss or post Tim Pool?
Well, Tim Pool it wasn't him personally. In
But was he
hindsight,
still
maybe it could have
employed
been.
at
Who
the time?
knows? I just remember there was that girl there, and she was very offended.
Well,
by,
was it during the
Dr.
Vice
Keyes.
era when Tim Pool was with the company? Is what he's asking.
Oh, maybe this was in 2014.
I think I would believe that Tim Pool was with Vice during that. But
Shit,
hey,
I think
guys,
even, I
I'm
think
gonna
even
have to,
Gavin
bow
McInnes
out
was still
for
with him at that point. Like, that was like
I
ancient
think
history.
this tangent has taken a while, and people who are watching this video and after it's live would probably appreciate if we went on with the book.
No, you're right. Okay, and we actually are kind of getting into the end zone. There's maybe just like one complete page left. So let's just marathon
Let's
through
rant
it, and
after
then
that.
Hey, can I just say this?
yeah, go.
I'm gonna have to bow out for. But hey, Prince of Queens, I've been a fan of yours since 2016, and so it was really cool to be in a live stream with you.
Oh yeah, cool. Thanks. That's really awesome to hear. It happens far too rarely that I actually get to talk, like hear someone's voice who says such things anymore. I guess it's because people don't really stream on YouTube like they used to. I think it was the whole blood sports thing ruined it all. Everybody used to be friends. It used to be awesome. And then there was money and then there was money in money to be made by betraying all your friends, and then all the people who did it no longer have channels. It's so funny.
I was there when Magdalene Burns started fucking around with you.
Oh, well, she doesn't count. I mean, but she's actually like she's
That
messed
arc
up.
was
She's messed up in the head though. Like, I mean, that's not even what I think of when I think of blood sports. No, I'm thinking like when I say blood sports, I mean like fucking Tonka Saw and the fucking what was the other thing? What was that stupid stream? I can't. Oh, the cunt stream. Yeah, that was really disappointing because I was actually friends with a few of those people, and I mean I'm still friends with the one, but you know it was like there's these people that I actually kind of knew just because we used to all hang out with each other and get drunk, and then people started being mean, and then everybody sort of stopped streaming with each other. Sucked.
Yeah, well,
But yeah,
you
Yeah,
know,
well, you guys
nice
all
to
have a
talk to
good
you.
night.
all right, keep it easy, bro. And yeah, go ahead and message me about IC Might. We'll see if we can figure something out.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, keep
Peace
it
out.
easy.
Have a good night.
Have a good time.
But yeah, he is my friend that I made because he attended the first time I had the red pill screening, which that was really cool. Like because otherwise it's really hard to find in real life friends who follow like kind of stupid YouTube shit. So we have great things to talk about.
It's cool that you found people that agree with that, because I try to get some people that I know that actually have a space in a place that used to be a cinema. It still has the screen and everything and the projector. And I tried to tell them, hey, why don't you do a showing of the Red Pill? And they were like, yeah, we'll give it a watch. And then they were very opposed to it. I guess they were too feminist.
The idea that someone would be opposed to that, because it's very politically smart. It's a very sensitive documentary in a lot of ways, and it's very dry and very even-handed in a lot of ways too. Like I just, I think there's just a patience.
I've never
had.
seen it. Should I watch it tonight?
Yeah, watch it. Well, also if you
watch it.
If you go to the ICMI, then they're gonna have a screening of it on Saturday. But I don't know if that's. Where are you?
If you're going, just watch it with people. That must be better.
Yeah, then you can have a discussion about it and talk. I don't think that will be possible.
really disappointed because I thought that movie was very well made, like for people who are reasonable, and I guess those people I considered my friends weren't that reasonable.
Oh, don't you hate that when you find out like what people really think? And you're like, oh, I don't know if I really wanted to know that.
Yeah, I cleverly managed to avoid that problem by just not having IRL friends anymore because I realized that they were all retards, so I just stopped associating with them.
Oh dear.
I actually realized that even like feminists will usually like agree with points until I like say that I'm MRA. It just goes to show that like usually like a lot of the bullshit that's peddled by feminists is usually just fake MRAs.
Yeah.
Like they don't even.
Gotta go crypto MRA. Go crypto MRA.
Well, it's weird because you can bring up individual issues like circumcision or whatever, and the normie who has no care in the world for these things has very little reason to say no or to oppose it. So they're just kind of like, yeah, but then if you say anything to the effect of this is going to be something for men, like if you use the word men bizarrely, then they just spurg out and lose interest. Yeah, it's really strange.
Either they lose interest or they get like very angry very quickly about something. I'm not sure what.
Yeah. Anyways, shit. What I was gonna say.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know.
Maybe just get on with the book.
Oh.
Alright, we'll go ahead and
let's listen
marathon through. So, let's see. So she says, divorcing fathers increasingly use the threat of a custody battle as an economic bargaining chip. And it works. He gets the house, the car, and the boat. She gets the kids. And, if she's lucky, minimal child support. When fathers persist, a high percentage win custody because judges tend to view the higher male income and the father-dominated family as the best interest of the child. Many judges also assume that the father who fights for custody is rare and should therefore be rewarded for loving his children, or that something is wrong with the mother. Right, so that's all just an assumption. They have a whole court case, but she claims no, it's all just because of these assumptions. But hey, if once we get the robot AI, we can settle this, right? The robot, the AI judges, I mean.
It turns into a real depression session because when I'd conceived the idea of AI judges, which I don't think anybody's brought that into this before, so I thought, ooh, here's a unique thing that isn't talked about, like we can use machines to deal with this issue. But then you brought up something which I hadn't even thought of, like for some reason I hadn't considered this, which is that it would just lead to people saying that the AI needs to be injected with feminist values or whatever, which they probably would do because they've already done things like that with machine learning and stuff. And it's really depressing. Like there's no escape. There's no escaping it.
There's no easy way around gynocentricism to like fix it. Like you need to like reduce the gynocentrism within society, and then you can.
Yeah, the lawmakers, the politicians, they're still in this circle jerk of women.
Yeah, you gotta stop the bleeding first, is what.
Yeah, of course.
That'd make a great sci-fi episode, though. Just the idea of like you have these feminist programmed femputers, right, trying to litigate everything, and then like a lesbian case comes, and then like they all just short circuit and are like arguing with each other and just like self-destruct.
That's interesting. Like because you know how people will sometimes say the way to get people to recognize, as depressing as it is to say this, a way to get people on board with seeing female perpetrated sexual violence as an issue is to bring up female on female sexual violence. But that seems to do what you just said there, like the idea of lesbian rape just seems to make people's brains short circuit, which I find very interesting because it's like I think people honestly have a difficult time wrapping their heads around the idea of two women having sex. It's just kind of a strange thing, verbally, conceptually. Like, I I don't know if I'm explaining this. It's a very I don't know how to say it non-judgmentally, but like they don't see it as like an aggression in the way that male sexual acts are.
Yeah, honestly,
they're
I
having
think
a lot
we
of
need
trouble with the lesbian domestic violence, which seems to be really high.
What were you going to say, Derek?
Oh.
I was
Sorry?
just gonna say what we really need is there's actually a whole genre of like movies and books and stories about domestic violence, right? Like The Burning Bed. You know, these very sensationalized, over the top depictions of females being battered by their husbands. And what we need is like a good, strong, high production movie. Like instead of The Red Pill, maybe what we need is like a strong drama of an abusive, gaslighting lesbian. Or right, like why can't that be the like? Let's do a 2019 version of the Gaslight, where it's a lesbian abusing her partner, right? Because we want to be inclusive, so it's going to be a strong black lesbian just beating the crap out of
I
a
love
woman.
this. You're
and
already
manipulating
like
her.
checking out the box. I love it.
In a wheelchair too, somehow. That would be interesting.
She beats her up and runs her over.
Yeah,
I'm just
I'm so
imagining-
flabbergasted about this. Like, you would expect gay male couples, because they're physically stronger, to have more violence, bats in domestic violence. Really.
I think it's the opposite.
Oh.
And, like men
Statistically-
realize how stronger they are. Therefore, I think that could actually be a good counter argument.
Yeah,
the
that's why once
statistics
a
show that
country-
lesbians are more domestically violent, as far as I know, in
Yeah.
my country.
Yeah, and no, that's generally the overall thing, and I think it's because women have not been conditioned not to hit, and or maybe it's just because they're emotional and they get mad for dumb reasons because they're women and they're kind of dumb. Because that's what I like to say today. Today
You're
is
just
the day
having a
where I get
ball.
to say that. There's not-
And that's why I like to say, like, we need to condition women not hit at all. Like, just like how we teach.
Terrence in the chat said,
I know
this movie
that
should be-
sounds radical,
He
but
said this movie
I think
should
it's
be-
doable. I think.
It's in line with equality.
Do you remember the Melanie Martinez Timothy Heller thing at all? Like
I remember
the
Melody
musicians?
Martinez, the name.
Yeah, she was like accused of. She was falsely. Well, we don't know, but she was accused of rape by like another musician. It was like it was a big thing at the time, a certain corner of YouTube. But
Wait, was that earlier this year? Yeah. What happened with that? I forgot about that. I probably shouldn't. Look
no,
into
they
it
like
now, but
it was like a huge thing. There was like tons of articles and shit written about it, and then people were on this hate train against Melanie Martinez, and there wasn't really any like real proof that I know of. But
no. I think because I think it was Shannon had come out to defend her, and most people were kind of I guess a lot of people were kind of abstaining from judgment, but of course there was also the witch hunt, but there were something. Oh no, I'm thinking of something else. I'm thinking of I'm thinking of Mercedes Carrera. That's what I'm thinking of.
By the way, has there been any update on what's going on with her? Like, I haven't heard anything.
When I search for Mercedes Carrera, I just get porn first. Man, being a porn star is like a really smart smokescreen. Just become a porn star, and then if like you do anything scandalous, your porn comes up first still.
So was she found guilty of whatever? Because I know she had like a different story, but I didn't follow up on it at all.
Well, she's not banned from YouTube. Oh, her last day was 2 years ago. I don't know. We probably don't need to go into this right now. But
it's fine. I'm sorry about that.
I got my wires crossed. I thought you were talking about Mercedes Carrera.
Like,
How does
again,
this relate back to the
like,
text that
kind
you were
of,
reading in the book? So
I kind of facilitated this, but let's just
Yeah.
continue with the book.
yeah.
What may be wrong with the mother is that she and her children are being systematically impoverished, psychologically and legally harassed, and physically battered by the very father who is fighting for custody. However, mothers are often custodially punished for leaving a violent husband. She is economically depriving her kids and violating her marriage vows. Or for staying. She married him, so I hold her responsible for what he did. Some people, including psychiatrists, lawyers, and judges, deal with the male domestic violence by concluding that women have either provoked or exaggerated it. Co-parenting, or male mothering, is an ideal of some feminist theorists, who therefore support joint custody, or children as the preferred... joint custody of children as the preferred arrangement after divorce. However, this is liberal theoretics, not scientific fact. The leaders of the joint custody movement, such as Dr. Judith Wallerstein, are now saying just this. Inviting men to have more involvement in childcare through a joint custody arrangement will not necessarily produce more mothering, but perhaps more patriarchal fathering. The disconnected men who have been socialized to reproduce sexism are the very men whom feminists have been calling upon to participate equally in childcare. Dr. Miriam Johnson, in Strong Mothers, Weak Wives, concludes that fathers, not mothers, control and dominate gender stereotyping. She asks, would not such men carry their dominating tendencies into the nursery? Do we really want such men involved in mothering? I am absolutely in favor of getting men off the battlefields and into the kitchen, and absolutely in favor of male tenderness, intimacy, accountability. However, I am arguing that the call for gender neutrality and custodial determination is a mistake. A deeper and closer look at the way gender neutrality works in actual custody cases shows that, rather than achieving equality, it may enhance male patriarchal power and the primacy of sperm. The primacy of sperm.
What? Did it actually end like that?
Yeah, she ended with the primacy of sperm. She's just getting fancy. There's nothing there.
Like, is this the actual end of the whole thing? Like
no, that's the end of that page. There's just 2 paragraphs left, so we'll just close that out. The patriarchal ideal of fatherhood is sacred. As such, it usually protects each father from the consequences of his actions. The ideal of motherhood is sacred too, but no human mother can live up to it, so it serves to expose all mothers as imperfect. Therefore, all mothers are custodially vulnerable because they are women. All fathers, including incestuous, violent, absent, passive, or helper fathers, can win custody, not because mothers are unfit, or because fathers are truly equal partners, but because fathers are men. The equal treatment of unequals is unjust. In real patriarchy, the paternal demand for equal custodial rights, and the law that values legal paternity or male economic superiority over biological motherhood and or women's primary care of children degrades and violates both mothers and children. And she knows that the author would like to acknowledge Ara Wilson's assistance. What a dude, okay.
This is just a shining example. Okay, so hold on. I just want to say, this is you know how there's like basically everything feminists say about supposed female oppression is like inverted. It's like the reverse of what is true. This is like someone was given like it's like the science fair project for trying to come up with the least true thing. Like, okay, who can come up with the most extravagant reversal of reality? And then this was the like science fair winner.
Let me just write the opposite of what is actually happening, and I win.
Yeah, to such a absurd degree that it's like it's downright creative that she even.
I don't know how you don't get like I get so like mad reading something like this.
I like how she uses like women in children as well, because she knows that people obviously want to protect children, so she is like just women and feminists just use that all the time. It's funny because as soon as the male child turns to an adult male, like they just it's kind of disgusting actually. It's
if they even wait that long, like she's basically just sort of saying like, no, there's never been a single reason in the history of the world for men to get the children. I mean, all the guys that win the custody of their children are obviously just abusive pedophiles that have never given any money towards the child's welfare. And it's like, there's like, you couldn't say something further from the truth. That is just so incredibly absurd that it's like, it's such a shining example of what Spacepan likes to talk about in terms of, you know, like what is the best definition of what feminism really is. It's like, you know, what should really be by feminism in the dictionary should be women and women first.
Yeah,
Exactly.
just like the fucking bookstore. But like, I did want to take a quick aside here. The way that she closed it out, this parenthesis at the bottom. The author would like to acknowledge Ara Wilson's assistance. Like, how fucking offended would you be if you helped someone write this article, right? And then at the end, they just, oh, by the way, I'm going to acknowledge your assistance. Like, how? What? What did she do? What's her involvement? Like, nobody reading this, who is Ara Wilson? What's your, you know what I mean? It's just like literally obligation to Ara Wilson.
Like
here. Like,
she was probably literally promised to be called as a co-author, and then that's what she gets.
yeah, there it is.
I
I'm
even
just
feel
gonna
bad
blow
for
it
this
up right
chick.
here. Because it's just, that's so funny to me. It's so just like callous and like stupid. It tells me nothing. But what one device I like that she used in this one is, what she'll do is she'll basically spell out choices that women have and then parenthetically refer to it as its stereotype, right? Which is a very brilliant sophist device. But of course, the problem is that
That's like Big Red all over, you know?
yeah, well, yeah.
Just before
that's what
Big Red even was
like, oh, if a woman is too weak, you're gonna say that she's, cucked to the patriarchy, and she's just she's a whore of the patriarchy, right? But if she's strong, you're gonna call her a bitch, right? And then they do these things to say, so nothing women can do will ever amount to winning, right? And then they're gonna call everybody else somebody who is, denying female agency. So yeah.
Yeah, they can't win unless they 100% conform to the current agenda, which changes every year.
Well, they're never going to win anyways, as long as they keep hard. Like, I'm okay with this, like, strong, empowered feminist woman that carries their own weight until they fucking take out the V card and say, oh no, I'm a poor infant. Like,
Yeah, I think that there's like a little bit more V card, a little bit less carrying anything in most feminist things. It's like what is the feminist, the strong, empowered? Oh wait, you know what? I'm gonna post a meme because I just found it on. Yeah, okay. So sorry, I'm gonna find it. Wait, can I post it in the comment? Yes.
Yeah, basically where you posted "Welcome back."
It's just kind of pathetic.
Yeah. I mean,
it's so obvious. So like, I've always been able to like point it out. Like you think that you're a tough bitch or whatever, and then you just revert back to that because we'll listen. And I'm just like pointing at the men and saying, "Hey, do you realize what you're doing? Why are you being retarded?" And this is why I hate men almost as much as I do women when it comes to these sorts of situations. If not more so. I think I actually hate men more so when it comes to those.
This whole thing read like a stream of consciousness thing, like people write sometimes, where they just basically voice their bowels about a topic without any research or backing it up. It's just, this is how I feel right now, you know. This is the truth according to my feelings. And this stuff, it's interesting that it came from 1992 because I saw some texts and videos about the feminist movement really struggling in that time because I think it was 1991 when they first started to segregate like the
Yeah, well, when was Sexual Persona written? Or what was it? No, it's
Sexual Personae. I think that was that the 70s? It's pretty old.
Oh, it
She
is
had
old.
something else
Okay.
in the
But
90s.
she was.
She had a different book, I think. Let me just double check.
Oh.
That's the 94 is in my head. Let me sexual personae. And Ashley,
But
did you have
this
something
just
to add?
triggers my
I
memory.
think you were trying
of
to get in
this.
there.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, that might have just been his mic picking up. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I don't think so. But
Sexual
about
personae was
Polly,
1990.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was around the same time.
it's so comical that she calls herself a feminist because it's like she's basically pro-male, which makes calling herself a feminist really weird. Yeah, it's really weird.
Which one do you mean, Camille
Polya.
Polya? Oh, well,
I wonder if she say she's.
Yeah.
I
Well, no, I would say she kind of is. Like, it's her definition of feminism seems like she basically made it up as she went along, and it entails something to the effect of, yeah, my feminism is Amazonian drag queen feminism. It's like, oh, you mean men?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't actually know what her position. I think she did a talk
She-
with Jordan Peterson. And
Well, she has like positions that are on both sides a lot of the time. It's like hard to figure out exactly what.
I actually
Yeah,
have
she's
her.
hard to pin down. That makes her very interesting. But I feel like even though she's a little bit slippery, I think she's honest. I think she's genuinely giving you her take, and because she's so focused on art, and art always has this like sense of conflict in it. You know what I mean? I think that it just kind of naturally arises from that. So to me, she's always just like a cherished person.
Yeah, I read her book Glittering Images.
Did you see
the art
her,
history book, and it was really good.
did you see her appearance on Politically Incorrect by Bill Maher?
Yeah, it's funny.
It's like she was so much ahead of her time in that. Like I have a really hard time following her when she does like when she talks to Jordan Peterson, because she can't. Like you realize I talk kind of slow in English because it's not my native tongue, but she's talking so fast, and I can understand her, but I can't follow her points because she's like.
I had that problem with Zizek, because he's always wiping his nose.
But she says all the time is she's like, okay, and blah 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 blah, okay, and everything.
Like she's not a good speaker, but she has sometimes a good message.
Her writing's pretty though. I liked it, but I only read her stuff on art. I didn't read her feminism really. I mean, they kind of overlap sometimes, but
Yeah. Like,
Oh yeah, I think what I was going to. Or never mind. I think I did say that. It was talking about how like if I don't mention my MRA, like me being an MRA, like a lot of like the stuff that I'll talk about, my feminist friend will with. Like I'll talk about like toxic masculinity and male ego, because I think those things are problems that really help prevent men from getting rights.
isn't that how it always is though? It's like it's just all about the framing, like how you like dress it up, because like you can talk to people about something, but as soon as you use like certain buzzwords that are in the current consciousness, then people kind of like freak out.
Yeah, well, it's like cross-examining a witness, right? If you've ever, like I used to do like mock trial, right? So obviously I'd have no real legal knowledge, but I have some experience in kind of the theater of it, and some of the techniques in it, and I did a little bit of debate where you have cross-examinations. And in a cross-examination, what you want to do is like, you kind of build a rapport with the person that you're kind of going back and forth with. You don't want to be off-putting. And what you're doing is you're asking them questions to kind of give you the pieces of your trap that you need, right? And then eventually it's like mousetrap. You're kind of like slyly setting up in motion everything, and you're slowly kind of leading them to the corner, to the edge of the cliff, right? But then you don't ask like your big, heated, crazy questions until kind of in the end, right? When they don't have any good options. Because if they agree with you, then you get what you wanted. But if they disagree, you get to draw them back to something they said before and then impeach them, right? And like,
well,
yeah.
that's one part of the narrative right now. But I've actually I have one friend who's kind of an SJW, and through interactions with him, I learned that they started to look for these dog whistles, I think they call them. Like, once I mentioned when we were talking about Sweden, I said the word no-go zones, and he was like, hey, are you aware that's a word that the right wing uses? And I was like, yeah, but it's zones in those countries where the police don't dare to go because they will get killed by extreme violence from gangs. So,
Yeah, it's like, it's depressing, but the NPC meme is disturbingly accurate. The way that people, it's like they're programmed to just react to particular words, and then they just completely shut down.
It's Pavlovian
yeah.
ethics. Pavlovian ethics. I coined the term. That's what it is. It's the same ethics that which when you tell children, don't say this list of naughty words, right? Doesn't matter what the words mean. Doesn't matter how you mean them. Doesn't matter how you're using them. This is the list of naughty words, right? This is your rule. You follow it, and it's literally just adults doing the same thing.
Can you put that in the comments, the first channel?
Yeah, well, no, on my channel, it's one of my recent videos, Pavlov's N-word.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
I get it.
Oh yeah, the end. Anyways, yeah, the feminist friend that I'm talking about isn't the one that stopped talking to me. This one's me. So I hope that I can convince him once I set my.
So how much can you get away with saying to them? Sorry, him and the female one.
Well, the female one was eco-feminist, and I actually learned about ecofeminism from them first before Spacepan even made a video.
Yeah, I love ecofeminism, like unironically.
It's such a meme.
What's it again?
So ecofeminism is where you kind of combine environmentalism with feminism, and then you apply it to things on a real conceptual level. So artifice and kind of a lot of human so-called progress is very patriarchal, and nature is very feminine. And what we see is that humanity often changes and conquers and dominates nature. And this is a sort of a black and white kind of a binary of dualism that plays out. And patriarchy creates dualisms in all forms of society, whether it's education, technology, just like anything you can name, there are dualisms created, and in hierarchy as well. So when you engage in ecofeminism, what you're doing is you're identifying quote-unquote essentialism, and then you're looking at how that essentialism creates opposing binaries, and rather than seeking a balance, you're opposing any time that one thing dominates another. So it's very, very just completely retarded. It's like super funny. It's very,
like
very.
they're offending people and looking for keywords to search for to call them fascists, basically.
I love the inadvertent, like, highly unflattering implications of that analysis. Like, yeah, men make things, and nature is feminine, and nature doesn't make things; it just exists. Like, right?
Like,
yeah,
Marie Curie never existed. Like, her discoveries about the atoms didn't contribute to the whole.
Everything is nature,
stuff.
Isn't it?
Yeah, but
she was
the other
influencing
feminist
men.
talking about was that was the one that was the ecofeminist, and they were kind of not tolerant of it. They kind of basically I would have to push them into a corner to get them to admit like this male issue is worse than the female compared to female issue, and she would admit it, but then she would fucking forget it like time we talked. And meanwhile, the other one is the one that's male friends with. They're not an ecofeminist, thank God. They're actually sort of smart. Like, I know a smart liberal is kind of an oxymoron sometimes, but he's actually sort of smart. Have faith. And I think he me and him will talk about male ego and toxic masculinity all the time. But I'll sprinkle in a little bit of stuff like female hypergamy, and maybe he'll I hope so. I think that he has more to gain by being friends with me than this not being friends with me.
Yeah,
That's the
like a
thing
lot
I
of
said
people-
earlier
Oh, sorry,
about
go
that
ahead.
feminist friend of mine. Sorry, Spaceman. You wanted to say something?
Well, I was just gonna say that, when people say, "Oh, I don't like to talk politics with friends," I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, some people like talking politics, so, like, who are you to define
Are you really
what I should look
friends
for in
if you
friends?
can't
You know?
Personally, I am kind of suspicious sometimes, or not suspicious, but it's like, it's a worrying thing in my opinion when you get one of these people who just kind of bend with the wind. Like, they say they believe one thing, but then you can talk to them about this thing for a little bit and, oh yeah, actually I agree with that now. Like, after almost nothing, because that's a sign that they're really not very knowledgeable and just say shit. But
Yeah, it's like you imagine their imagination, and it's a bunch of like drawings with crayon.
yeah,
Well-
exactly like that.
Scribbles.
Most
Well,
words
okay.
just. I really like being a part of this group. You know what I mean?
May I ask, are we offline?
No,
Stream-wise?
actually, I was gonna address that. So we are still online, and this is actually kind of
Because
cool.
I'm not really talking about it.
No, but since we're all just in the Discord voice chat, I'm gonna go ahead and take us not offline, but then obviously the voice channel is still here, so people can still kind of hang out and chat. I'm gonna post the Discord link at the end, so at the beginning and end of the chat, you have that link. So anybody listening, you're welcome to
Okay.
hop in and join. But yeah, I thought
I'm
this
gonna
was...
be smoking.
And I'm actually gonna go to bed because I have to get up at like 7.
Oh no,
It's
it looks
like
like we're all gonna probably F
10.
off because I'm really hungry. I need to eat a burger. But this
Yeah,
was
I need to.
You need
You know.
a pizza burger.
I need to eat a
There are
burger.
Tornado
burgers in
girl.
Hong Kong.
Yeah, so that's a sleep tight and a bon appetit.
All right, thanks for having me. It was really nice of you. All right, peace.
Yeah, and I thought that this worked out fairly well. So I might try this method again next week. It's kind of fun just to kind of open things up a little. So
I think we were kind of civil, letting other people talk and stuff.
Yeah, we did a pretty good job, I think. So yeah, I have maybe 3 weeks left before ICMI and about like 4 of these essays left, one of which is really short. So looks like we're about on track to finish this awful book before I return to the Twin
It's
Cities
really
Med Center and give
awful.
them their fucking book back that I just
It's-
basically stole.
Hey, you guys, while I go smoke a cigarette, I have an assignment for you. I wrote out a list of reasons that I could think of that women lie about rape. I got about 21 of them. I can
Are you
copy and
Australian?
paste them. Yeah.
Oh, good.
I think that's what he said. I can copy and paste the ones that I have into the chat. And first of all, see if I actually accidentally repeated myself in some way or another. Second of all, if you have anything to add to it, I am going to be making a video on it, and I will credit people for contributions.
All right, so there we go. That's our project we're going to be working on.
Cool.
All right, I'm going to
But
make
the
a...
writing.
All right,
Yeah.
so see,
So
everybody, I'm gonna
Prince,
go
you're
offline.
going to post that in Spacepan's Discord.
Yeah, post it in comments 3 is the
Yes.
best because comments 3 is for people who are in voice chat. So anything related to what we're discussing in voice chat, you toss in comments 3. Comments 2 is for anything that's spicy, and then comments 1 is the default. That's the system, and we're gonna go with it for now. All right,
Yeah,
Sure.
thanks everybody for coming. Keep it easy. Yeah, I just want to say bye to the larger internet.
I'm gonna go clean now. Bye bye.
All right, have
Have a
a
good
good morning,
time, then.
Spacepan.